Hello, everyone. Me and Nicole literally sat down at the same time. So I saw her little screen popping on as I was sitting. It was hilarious. I was searching because I had the book that I was going to read. I had it in the bed yesterday, and so my phone's ringing.
It's all happening.
I got to answer this one because it might be about my surgery.
Okay, cool. No worries. So I'll just talk amongst myself. So how is everybody today? Leave us a comment in the comments what you're going to be reading, and this is as Heather was saying. It's just low key. We're just going to do a little bit of a chill, get some reading done. I'm hoping to finish this book today. I should be reading this one, but I'm going to finish this one.
What was the first one?
The first one is for my Read Around the World challenge. I'm supposed to be reading this whenever I'm on sprints, but I don't want to.
For some reason, it gives me the vibes of that book. I think it was called The Birds or something. I can't remember what it was, but they made a movie that had Sandra Bullock. And it's where you couldn't see the monster, or you would go and see.
Oh, yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Blindfold, wasn't it called?
I can't remember. It's been so long. I watched it before I read it before the movie came out. So I was like, how are they going to do this? Because in the book, you never know what it looks like.
Yeah. So this one is
Bird Box.
What's it called?
Bird Box.
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. This one is not that. This one is a historical fiction, and it's set in Azerbaijan in 1979, and it's following the story of a 15-year-old girl that is about to become part of the Communist Party, but she is having second thoughts because there are people saying that it's not all that it's cracked up to be. And I just don't want to read that today. So I'm going to go with Castaways, which is, I started last night and I'm about 100 pages in, I think. And it is about two sisters. One sister, they went on a holiday, then they had an argument, and so they separated. One sister got on a plane, the plane went missing.
Oh, wow.
And never been found. And so we're getting then and a now, which the now is 2 years after the fact, and the pilot's just turned up alive. After 2 years, and he was living. It's pretty early in the book, they're not giving any spoilers or anything like that. He's turned up alive, and he's been living under a false identity for 2 years in Fiji. So yeah, and I'm listening to it on audio, and I must say that whoever the narrator is sucks at an Australian accent, because she sounds more South African than she does Australian. Because the pilot's Australian and she's trying to do an Australian, and I'm giggling all the way through it. But the book is really good so far. I think it's going to be really good. So what are you reading today?
Apparently I'm getting a call from my husband now. I'll be right back.
Please hold. So we don't know what she's going to be reading, but this book looks like it's going to. I'll just keep talking. This book looks like it's going to be pretty thrilling and whatnot. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to get it done. And I'm listening to it on audio, and I've sped it up quite a bit. So hopefully I will get it finished today while we're doing some sprints and whatnot. So that'll be good if we do. If I should happen to disappear, it's because my computer is being a bit hinky this morning. I don't know what it's doing, but it's being a bit weird. So, or if I go blurry, my internet's playing up as well. So all the technology is giving me grief today. I just kept waffling on as if we were talking.
Phone calls. The first one was this is like a medical call. For the information from your medical provider, press 7. So I press 7, and then all I hear is beep, 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 nothing. And then my husband's just calling me because he got off work. He always calls me when he's on his way home. So I have 2 books. Both of them were from the library. So this one is A Map to the Sun, and it is a graphic novel, and it is so colorful and pretty.
Oh
And
wow.
the color schemes are not consistent. So it can go from that, and then the next page is like all red and pink. And
Hmm.
so it's like a rainbow cascade of colors. So
I've never really, I can honestly say I've never read a graphic novel. And I don't know why.
I like
There's
it.
there's no reason for me not to read them, but yeah, it's just not something that I've ever picked up.
It just takes out all the extra fluff because the
Mm.
author's not having to describe what anything looks like.
Yeah,
They're not having to describe any senses because you see the picture, so you get that without having to have words. So it's just like what a book would be without the dialogue. Sorry,
yeah,
the book would be with only dialogue.
yeah,
Um, it's like a movie in a book form. Movie in book form, but yeah, I like them. I haven't always read graphic
yeah,
novels. I didn't read them when I was growing up, but they were so popular on BookTube and everyone was doing readathons. I just started picking them up because they're easy to fly through. So
yeah,
yeah, every once in a while I'll go look because I'm like, I don't feel like I'm cheating out the rest of my books on my TBR because I can sit down and I can finish it in less than 4 hours.
yeah,
Uh, but this one is about two girls and they were friends. One of them's like a surfer, one of them plays basketball. And so they have like this whole summer of friendship. And then the one girl moves back to Hawaii and her phone like got cut off. So they never had a goodbye.
yeah.
Then she comes back several years later. They're both in high school. And at first, the other one feels like she's been ghosted. So she doesn't
Mm.
really want to hang out with this girl. But the other one's like, oh, I'm so happy I get to see you again. And we're in the same school. And they have a new athletics director that's there. So she wants to start a sports team because they don't have any girls' sports teams because there's just not enough funding. So they
Yeah,
can't justify it. But she's like, I will run a basketball thing. And so the principal's like, okay, I'll give you a shot. Well, none of the girls have ever played like actual basketball on a team. So they're trying to compete against these other basketball teams where they've been doing it since like elementary school.
cool.
So it's really funny because she'll be like, y'all did so good. And they're like, we lost like 10-42. And she's like, yes, but y'all have never played.
Yeah,
So they're having to work together as a team. I think it might wind up having a sapphic romance in here, but I'm not positive about that.
yeah.
But I see the potential if the author wanted to go that route. And then the other one is one that I've just been drawn to ever since I saw the cover and I knew I wanted to read it. And it's a fairly newer release. And it is Crumbs. And this is like a witchy romance. So it
Okay.
says, falling in love just got sweeter. In a very special town, there's an even more unusual bakery with a selection of baked treats handcrafted to help your dreams come true. For Ray, a quiet young woman with special powers of her own, the order is always the same, a hot tea with a delicious side of romance. When Ray meets Lori, the kind barista who aspires to be a professional musician, she gets a real taste of love for the first time. But even with a spark of magic, romance isn't so simple. Both Ray and Lori are chasing their own dreams, and even when Ray starts to see the future, she can't predict her fate with Lori. Based on the webcomic from Webtoon's #1 digital comic app, averaging more than 10 million daily readers and 100 billion views, my goodness, annually, Crumbs is in a stunning print format for the first time with gorgeous illustrations and exclusive new content sure to please new fans. I really
Wow.
like it, and it looks like the protagonist is plus size, so I don't see that very often.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
Tried one graphic novel called Faith that had a plus size superhero, and I was very disappointed with it. So I'm hoping that this will give me what I wanted with that, but witchy. So I would love to read both of these, but who knows? what will happen. I also need to do some writing.
Yeah.
But I haven't wrote in a couple of weeks because life has just been busy, and I'm so close to the end of my book.
Oh, awesome.
I feel like I have like maybe 6 chapters left before the end, and I'm like, I can knock that out. I need like 2 solid chunks of time, and I can just write it out. But I've been waiting for those perfect like 2 days of nothing that I have to get done, and it's just never happening. My friend like kicked me in the butt this morning. She's like, "Hey, I know you don't want to hear this, but if you want to make this a career, you just got to do it. You can't wait for perfect timing." And I'm like, "Oh, I know." So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm canceling the discussion for tonight because it was like, I didn't read the book. I don't think you reread the book. I don't know that anyone actually read the book this month. It's kind of been on a decline. It's been fun for us hosts because we're getting to hang out with each other. But people watching, there's usually not that many. Maybe like 2 or 3 people. I don't even know if they've all read the book or not. So I might change up how we do the I Read Dead people. I think one thing that I want to do, just because stress on my own end, as like the host where it's always on the channel, is I don't want to go through books that I'm not liking. I want to be able to DNF, but also not disappoint everyone else.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Yeah, so I'm like, instead of having one every month, I think what I'd rather do is I just read them on my own time. Then I go in the Discord. I say, all right, here's the book. Who wants to join me? Then I've already read it. I know that I like it.
Yeah.
And then if I only have one other co-host, at least there's 2 of us to talk. Because it's like if I DNF and I only have one co-host, I don't know how to give good questions. I don't know how to do any of that because I haven't got through the book. And my attention span has just not been that great, in particular with classics. So I'll sit down and I'll listen to a couple hours and I'm like, I have no idea what is happening.
And like some classics are like that though. You'll listen and you'll go, what just happened? Like that Anna Karenina, I just started that this week for the Serial Book Club. And the first 3 or 4 chapters, I listened to them and I was walking around the house and I'm like, I just did not take any of that in. And it was like the chapters are really short like in 100 pages, there's like 30 odd chapters, right? I think there's 33 chapters in the first volume and it's only 115 pages in my, at least in my copy, right?
Than I do.
Like really short chapters. So like I must have listened to about maybe 6 chapters and I've gone, I didn't retain any of that information. And so I'm like, I think I'll just go back because it was like only 15 minutes or whatever at the speed that I listened to. So I went back and listened to it. I'm like, because nothing actually did happen. Like, it wasn't that I missed anything. Nothing really happened. Like, it was just like, what's her name? Dolly found out that her husband cheated and she was pissed off. That was it. Like, and then it's sort of just gone on from there. Like, by the time I got to the end of volume 1, some stuff was starting to happen. It's still very fluffy at the moment. I don't know if I'm actually going to like it, but I have been told just give it a chance. Like, it does get good. And then I went and had a look on Prime Video, and there's like 4 different movie versions, and there's a series as well.
Well, I saw that with the Tenet of Wildfell Hall, there's a series. So it's like a series in like 3 parts. I think they're all like movie length though. Like
that's a mini series, that one,
And I heard it was one of the first feminist books. But I was getting confused because I listened to it for quite a while. I don't know how far I was in there, but like the narration that I had picked because it was the cheapest one, it was very good narrator. However, the main character seems to be a dude. And it's a female voice. She does not make her voice sound like a man. So I'm not distinguishing who's who. I am like halfway through the book. I got to chapter 16 and I've got 6.5 hours left of the audiobook. But it was like a 14-hour audio and I don't have a clue what happened in any of it.
Do you have Audible?
No. So I bought it for like $1.99.
Oh, okay. Because I've got Audible and it's free on Audible, and the narration that I listen, because as you know, I read with the audio.
Yeah.
And the narration I had was really good, like really well done. And I'm just trying to think, was it a male or female? I can't remember.
This one was Mary Sarah Agata or something.
Let me just.
It's very good. Like her accent is nice. She's very clear. But I wasn't retaining. It was like nothing was happening. I don't know. And I was listening to it at like 1.5 speed, which is slower than I normally.
Yeah.
But it's classic, so I kind of have
to
go.
I listen to my classics at 1.6.
Yeah.
It depends on the narration. I have had one where the narration was still really slow at that, so I was able to go up to 1.8. So the one on that I listened to, that's the cover of it on Audible.
Huh.
And it has two narrators in it, Alex Jennings and Jenny Gutter. So we had the two perspectives. I do like it when you've got, because the female
You
character is the main part of the book as well. So not only the male, but yeah. So
see, I think I was just reading them as one person because the voice was the same, and I didn't have the text in front of me. So I did not.
Basically, Helen arrives at Wildfell Hall, and she's very mysterious and all the rest of it. And the next door neighbor, I forget his name, Gil, I think I want to say Gil, but anyway, he was quite taken by her and wanted to find out more about her. So basically, in the first part of the book, it is him narrating, and he's trying to figure out who she is and all the rest of it. And then in the second part of the book, if memory serves me correctly, it goes to the backstory of her. So then we learn why she is there, but from her perspective, and why she's doing the things that she's doing. But yeah, the book blew me away. Like it is very much, I would consider it the first piece of feminist literature.
Because I know there's supposed to be like domestic violence is supposed to be part of it. So I'm guessing that has to do with her past. So she like ran away from her husband, or her husband died and she got away.
No, she ran away to protect her son.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
See, and
it wasn't just domestic violence. And it wasn't even domestic violence as such. It was more neglect. So he basically, that whole adage, took a beautiful girl away from the rest of the world and hid her away. And he kept going off, and there was infidelity, there was alcoholism, there was and the whole just keeping her on the edge all the time. So basically, she was at home at their place. He was in London, if that's where he was, like he was in London, and he'd send letters saying he was coming home, and then he'd never show. So she was constantly on. Yeah, so she was constantly on edge, and that it is. If you can get through it, it is actually a really good book. I think you would really enjoy it because of the content in it. It's just really well done, and like out of all the Bronte sisters, Anne Bronte has skyrocketed to my favorite.
I might have to, like, get a Kindle version too, so that I can read along.
Yeah. Because some books or even get it from your library. You'd be able to pick it up from your library.
Maybe I didn't check. I know that they did not have an Audible. I mean, they didn't have any narrations available with my library.
Yeah.
But I didn't check for the actual book, so maybe they do have the book. But yeah, I'd listened to like over 6 hours of it, and I'm like, I don't know, I don't have a clue what's going on.
Should have sent me a message. I could have filled in.
Yeah,
I read it January with Maria from Read Fine Books.
Okay, so you did read it recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was either end of December or beginning of January that I read it. And I've done a review on it on my channel and whatnot. So yeah, like it's I really enjoyed it. I love Jane Eyre, but this book, the more I think about it, is actually edging Jane Eyre out of the top spot. So that's how much I liked it. It was just so different, like from because I've read so many Victorian and sort of the classics from that era, from the 1800s, and it was just so different. It was, normally it's like your Pride and Prejudice. They're all giddy about marriage and all the rest of it. This was just so removed from that, and I think that was just really refreshing and um, as, as as refreshing as 100-year-old book can be, um, it was just refreshing to read something different, a different take of that time, and yeah, she just done really well. It's just such a sad thing that Anne Bronte didn't see her life out. She died so young. I think she was 29 when she died, 29 or 30 when she died.
Well, I
All
know
the
her sisters were like not wanting it to be reprinted because they said that it wasn't a representation of their sister. Because I guess they were against the portrayals of men, and like everyone was questioning whether she was a man or not.
Yeah. Well, all the Brontes got questioned that because of their synonyms that they used. But I think we would have seen great things from her. But they all died very young. That all of them died very young. And I think they all died from TB.
Oh my.
Or just like lung related diseases.
I read a middle grades book that was set around, it was like all of World War II. So like the beginning of it to the end of it. And it was a middle grades book, and the girl was like 10 years old when she went into like this medical center for tuberculosis. And like all the other people there had tuberculosis too. And sometimes like the nurses and the people that were helping them would catch it.
Yeah.
And they would do like bloodletting. They would sit them outside, and when it was like cold weather, they would put them outside, and like all these things that you would know not to do now.
See, it's funny though, like I used to get croup quite a lot when I was younger, and funny enough, cold air actually helps you breathe. Even though the steam opens up everything, the cold air actually relieves and cools your chest. And so in winter, I used to get it quite a bit. I would go and sit outside to take in the cold air, and that would help. I never developed pneumonia or anything from it and whatnot. Like not for hours on end, but enough just to take the heat out of my chest, because you get quite like it's very inflamed and hot and everything when you get croup. And that's my grandmother did that to me, and yeah, and it actually helps. So hearing things like that.
If it's very cold, I start coughing. But also I have asthma, so it's any extreme temperature. So if it's very cold or if it's very hot, I cannot breathe in that. I cannot breathe like in the back seat of a car if someone in the front seat has the windows down. It's too much air. But it does clear me out. Like when I had COVID, sometimes I would go sit outside, because just having the normal air, something about it does help. It helps. I don't know if it's the temperature or if it's just that it's like fresh, uncirculated air. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
I sat outside a lot when I had COVID too. It helped that getting into the sun and just it was still cold here. Like that was last August when I got that, but yeah, I still went and sat outside. I've got a little nook where no wind can get to, so I just sat there and had the sun coming on me and all the rest of it. So yeah.
I'm lucky I only got COVID once.
Well, I only got it last year. I'm
a long time before I got it.
Yeah.
Which I was I like isolated, so I'd have contact with my husband, but my husband works at a job where there's like 3,000 employees in one building, so I'm surprised we didn't get it earlier.
Well, my husband's a tow truck driver, so he's going to like public places, people's houses, petrol stations, all the things, and like he's just moving cars and all that sort of stuff, sitting in a lot of personal spaces and all that sort of stuff. And that was he actually brought it home, because he got sick first, and Savannah and Savannah and Nerali work in fast food and also a news agency at the time. So I was surprised that we got to then, and that was the first time I came home.
Yeah,
because I isolated and whatnot.
For like 6 months, and we didn't do mask or anything. We were in the back. I thought all of them had their vaccinations. I just assumed that all the younger people were like more liberal.
Yeah.
And then I said that at one point, and they started laughing. They're like, "I'm not getting that." I was surprised. But so like one guy had got it, and then me and another girl that were there did not get it, but we both had a sinus infection at the same time. So I took like 3 COVID tests to make sure that I was okay. Because I was like, this is not a regular cold. Like something is going. We both had to get on steroids and like a shot in the booty and everything. Like it was bad. Yeah. But there was only like 9 people that you would be in contact with. And I was on the substation, so most of the time I had the 6 foot between me and anybody else. But I'm just like, I don't know how everyone didn't get sick.
That's interesting. That, yeah, no, like I didn't. The first year that everything went into lockdown, like I had my granddaughter living with us then. And she used to bring home a cold every time winter rolled around. She would bring a cold, and of course, no decorum when it comes to being sick. Children to sneeze on you, cough on you, all the rest of it. So I'd get sick. 2020 and 2021 was brilliant because everybody was isolating and no one was allowed to go to school or anything. Because if they had a sniffle, they had to go and get a COVID test, and it was great. 2 years I didn't get a cold.
You want to know what would have ended COVID? People learning how to cough correctly.
Yeah.
I've seen so many adults when they cough, they go, I'm like, who taught you? No, you did this. So it's in your elbow, and it doesn't spread.
Older people like me, when we were younger, we were taught you cover your hand, if you use your hand to cover your mouth. When you sneeze, you cough. That's how we were taught.
Oh my God.
Put your hand over your mouth. Don't just sneeze and cough over everybody. My parents used to say it all the time. My grandparents used to say it. And it's only been a recent thing in the last probably 10 years where they've told you to cough into your elbow, and more so in the last 5 years.
Oh my. I've always been told elbow, because if you do it on your hands, you better go wash your hands.
Yeah, yeah.
But also if no one's around, like if I'm outside, I'll just kind of turn to the side and cough. I won't cover at all because I'm not by anybody. But
yeah. Oh, the other one was cough into your hanky or your tissue. That was the other one. But yeah, most of the time to put your hand over your mouth. That's teachers used to say it, everything. But you also got to remember there's 20 years difference between us. So by the time, like your generation is being taught a whole different, like you even do math different.
Oh my gosh, you should see how they're doing it now. They have like a leaf diagram. I'm like, what is this? And they're like, oh, this is so they don't have to learn how to carry the one. I'm like, but you're adding like 4 steps. This makes no sense.
Yeah, I know. Like
I teaching before I finished. I was like, this is ridiculous.
When my daughters come home and showed me their math, I just looked at them and went, do you want to know the easy way to do it? And then I showed them and they looked at it and I'm like, they just looked at me and went, why are we not learning it that way? I don't know.
Because people have dumbed down education. I'm like, this is what you need to do. It's good to know these other formulas for the kids that don't get it the standard way. It's good to know those. But don't confuse all the kids by using these other methods that are not necessary for the majority. I was like, teach the one that everyone's been taught for the past 100 years first.
Yeah.
I was like, then for the kids that don't get it, then go teach them the other method and see if they'll get it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the same thing with like teaching kids how to do something 3 different ways and then making them practice it all 3 ways. I'm like, that's just a waste of their time. You just need to teach them one way. It is confusing. I'm just like, my goodness. The only thing that still confuses me to this day is fractions. Don't have me do math problems with fractions. It is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. When I was doing the college stuff with, we had like bars and like little tools and stuff that we could do to do fractions. That was the only time it made sense. Hey,
Yeah.
Courtney. I sent the link in the Discord if you want to hop on with us. But we will start reading in a minute because we've been yapping for half an hour.
We've covered some pretty broad topics, from classic to math.
Yes, we did. My goodness. Anyway, I guess we probably should start reading.
We probably should.
So do you want to start with a 30-minute?
Yeah, hon. You're in the driver's seat today.
But you're here with me.
I know, but I'm good. It's Saturday morning for me, so I don't have to be anywhere. I don't have to do anything.
See, and it feels
I don't
like
know what the heck
morning.
my hair's doing, but anyway.
It feels like morning to me because I slept until 2 p.m. And it's 7 now. So I've been up for 5 hours. However, when I got up at 2, I fed my dog and then I laid back down in bed for 2 more hours. So really, I was in my bed until 4 p.m.
Yeah. So you just started a new job.
Yes. So it's weird because it's like, so I gave her the phone number and the experience and everything. She's like, all right, we'll call you. We'll try you out. If you like it and we like you, we'll keep calling you on like an as needed basis to come in. So I was like, okay. And so she had called me up one time, but I was with my mom. So I was in Tennessee and I live in Kentucky. And so I was like, well, I can't come in today. I'm with my mom. And also it was on the weekend, which I told her I wasn't available for because we have one car. So me and my husband share. So he has it Friday through Sunday. Courtney, you got an ad already. I'm like, I just clicked on it and it's like ad. They're getting her bad with those ads. She ain't even monetized.
I know that you don't have to be monetized to have ads on it.
Ridiculous. I'm like, pay us. If you're gonna ruin our stuff, pay us. Just like, my goodness. But anyway, so then she called me again on Wednesday and I was like, yeah, because I wasn't gonna tell her no again. And I did have the car. So she's like, I was like, yeah, I'm still interested in what do I need to wear? And she was like, black shirt, black shoes, black pants. I was like, okay. I literally had like one of each of those. And I didn't even have the shoes. I had like regular t-shirts. So I go in, I bust my butt. Like I am just drenched in sweat, 6-hour shift. You only make your tips. You do not get any regular pay. So it's.
So what are you doing?
Waitressing.
Okay.
At a buffet.
Yeah.
So it's like a Chinese buffet. But they have an interesting way of doing it. Like they're not paying under the table, but instead of paying you $2.13 an hour, instead you pay them $40 at the end of your shift and they write you out a check for the $40 so that the minimum wage is covered on the books. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I'll keep my other tips. But she always asks us what the total amount is. So I don't know if she's like writing it down somewhere and then we'll get taxed. I haven't had to fill out any forms yet. So I don't know. But she liked me. So she called me again yesterday and I busted my butt again. And I mean busted my butt. Oh my goodness. So if y'all are at a buffet and you're like, I don't know what the tipping etiquette is because you pay before you eat. Yeah. So that's always confused me too, as far as how the tipping goes. Tip at a buffet, because there might be the people that are bringing you your drinks are not just bringing you the drinks, which is what I had thought.
Yeah.
That they're just bringing you the drinks and wiping off the tip. No. They're bringing you the drinks. They're busting the tables and they're doing a crap ton of side work. I was like, I was cleaning the men's and the women's restrooms. I wiped down all of the walls, which was like a lot of squatting and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I had to sweep the tile and vacuum and, there's just a lot of side work with the waitressing stuff. Yesterday I was doing the windows and the entire front wall of this buffet is windows. So I did all of those. I'm so sore. That's why I was in bed for so long. I was like, I cannot move. The first day I was like, honey, I don't even know if I can roll over to turn off my CPAP and get out of this bed. I was just like, I'm exhausted.
Oh.
And that was after coming home, icing my feet and my back for like half an hour. And then last night, I also laid on an acupuncture mat for several minutes. And I was still so worn out that I slept until like 2 and could have slept longer.
Yeah. It'd be like having a full, like doing squats and, doing this and all the rest. It's like you'd just gone to the gym.
6 hours of the gym.
Yeah.
Because it was nonstop. Like I will work from 4 until like 7:30. So that's 3.5 hours straight. Before I had enough time to get me a drink. Like to literally just fill a cup for me, slap a straw in it, and take like a big gulp. 3.5 hours before I had enough time to do that.
Wow.
Like, oh my goodness. Oh, and then I had to shake out the mats too, and they're heavy. They're long mats. So I'm doing like this. And then I gotta sweep it out, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. All the bending, and it's like I'm a front heavy person. So like if you look at me from the back, I know I'm in my moo-moo, but if you look at me from the back, I'm not that. But if you look at me from the side, I'm pooching out. So it's like that's a lot of weight, like putting me down. So
is it good? Courtney's just asking, is it good money?
Okay, so the first night I made $75. So that averages out to like $12 an hour, which at if I was getting minimum wage, it would be like $7.25 an hour. So I'm definitely doing better than that.
Here in our country, you get paid. So you're in your 30s, yeah?
33, yeah.
Yep. So you'd be paid around $22 an hour.
That would be awesome.
That's our minimum wage.
Really? Well, I wonder what your cost of living is, though.
Well, I don't know. Like, because you have like systems over there where you've got like food stamps and stuff if you fall under a thing. We have Social Security here, as well. So if you're not earning enough, you can be on Social Security and they balance it out for you, so you get that little bit of extra money. But yeah, like I haven't been on any government assistance for ages, so I don't understand the new rules or anything like that, or what it is anymore. But so minimum wage, like my daughter who's 17, she is getting paid I think $13 an hour.
So they pay you based off of your age?
Yeah, so up to a certain point. So, and then it goes on industry. So different industries have different minimum wage, and it changes all the time. So, but for retail, and I think hospitality falls under the retail industry, up until you're 21, you get a pay rise every year up until you're 21, and then I think it's $22 or $23 or close to $23 base. And then tips, we don't have a tipping system here. So that's why we get our minimum wages higher. So you go to a restaurant, you don't actually have to pay anymore. But at the till, when you go to pay, there is a jar there so you can put tips in. And then at the end of the night, they split the tips up amongst the staff. And we have holiday pay and all of that sort of stuff. And then we've got, the government Medicare. So you don't have to have up until you're 30. You don't have to have private health insurance. Once you hit 30, once you are about to turn 31, they want you to have private health insurance. And if you get private health insurance, you actually get a tax break. So that means it's better off on your hip pocket. And every year after your 31st birthday, there's a percentage that gets added on, which deletes the tax breaks or anything like that. And every year in our tax, every Australian citizen who pays tax pays Medicare levy. So I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but the last one I remember was about $650, and that's when we do our taxes we don't get that money back. So we've paid our taxes every week, and then at the end of the year we get money back if we're entitled to it. But that money pays for our Medicare and everything here. So there's they call it the Medicare levy, but it's part of our tax. We don't have to pay it out of our pocket or anything like that. So essentially, we're paying as we go.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Courtney had missed the link that I sent, watching TV with the Hubs. Congrats on the new job. Yeah, I mean, I know she's gonna call me again because she told me next time I have to have the non-slip shoes.
Yeah.
So, and my mother-in-law is really nice. She's gonna come up here on Sunday. We're gonna go to the mall, and she's gonna buy me some black pants and shirts because I only had one set. And so when she called me literally the next day with an hour's notice, I was like, well, I have to wash what I wore last night because I'm not like, I was so sweaty that it felt like someone had like thrown sand at me by the end of the night because like dead skin was just like flaking off like sand.
Yeah.
It was disgusting. And so I was like, I had to wash it. So I did. And then I called her and I was like, I'm going to be a couple minutes late because my only black shirt is in the dryer. And so I came to work and my bra was dry, but my shirt was still damp because it was only in the dryer for like 15 minutes. So
yeah.
But she knew, she didn't give me a lot of notice, so it was fine that I was only 15 minutes late, and that was the only option. So anyway,
well, you'll end up with a couple of sets then, and then you'll be right.
Use the video with the multicolored trees and write the time in the banner. I like it when it ticks down so I can just look and I know how long's left. Yeah. That's why I always use your other
you
timer.
Can use have you used Life at?
No. What is it called?
Life at. So LIFEAT.io. They have timers with different, that's what I use on my channel. You can pick it's free. You can pick your timers and all that sort of stuff. You can have sound with it and all the rest of it, and whatnot. It is an interesting system, Courtney, and it's not that complicated because all the employees have all the information. The employers, have all the information that they need, and you generally go and see an accountant to get your tax done. Most people do that, and it's all taken care of. Like, it's not really complicated. They send you a Medicare card in the mail, and whenever you go to a doctor, if they bulk bill, you don't have to pay anything for the consultation. Some doctors, you might have to pay an $80 fee, but when they put it through, like, I don't even have to go to a Medicare office. When I am at the doctor's, they do it all, and then I'll get $40 back in my bank account. So it only cost me $40 for the consultation. And and I find it to be not that complicated. Granted, I have an accountant that takes care of all my stuff as well. And I don't have private health insurance at the moment either. I'll get it when I'm a bit older. For the most part, I'm healthy right now. And if I have an accident or anything like that, I'll go into the public system through A&E, and I'll be seen to anyway. So
this is so cool. It even has where you can put the breaks in there.
Yeah. That's what I use. And you can have sound. You can mute it or you can have sound. So I had an autumn theme or a fireplace theme the other day, and it had crackling fire and stuff like that if you want to have it. But I just had it on silent the other day.
I always do silent just because I have ADD, and I know some other people on here do too. So like different sounds will be okay for different people. And then otherwise,
the nature sounds, I just sort of, where it's just like the little birds you hear chirping every now and again, and maybe the rustling of the wind, I'll leave them in. But if it's like a crackling fireplace, that can sometimes get a little bit annoying.
See, I like the crackling fire because that's like ASMR to me.
Yeah.
The birds I don't like because I don't know when they're going to chirp, so it's not predictable enough, and it's high pitched. Rain I like, but not if it's too heavy.
Yeah, I usually have a rain one. The autumn one that I have, where there's birds, they're so subtle you can barely hear them even when it's like up full bore. But then I have trees all here, so I left it running one day, and in the middle of the night, the alarm went off to set a new, like, because the 15-minute break, and I must have like crashed out. Didn't hear it any other time of the day, and then in the middle of the night I hear beep beep beep.
Oh no.
I went off. It was going.
Courtney says went to the Chinese buffet today and they do work hard. They bust their butt.
Yeah.
Like it was so funny because the first night, then we were cleaning and I thought I was supposed to wipe down all of the glass. So I started cleaning off the sneeze guard. And then one of the women, she's like, no, I do this. So she was like, I do this. Like they do not want you to do what's not yours because they all have like ownership in their area and what they want to do. So
Yeah.
I was like, hey, fine with me.
Mm.
But it was so funny because the owner was like, I don't know how to say your name because she kept calling me Hedda because they don't have like a TH sound.
Mm-hmm.
And so she tried so hard. And it was like the fourth time when she got the TH. But then when she tried to put it together, it didn't work. I was like, it's fine. I said, if you call me Hedda, that sounds really cool. It sounds like some kind of female warrior goddess. And I'm like, I'm down with it.
Yeah.
So like, go for it. I had
Will we be seeing Hedda in a future book, perhaps?
I mean, maybe. But I had a guy in high school, football player, and he would write me notes and he would leave out the E. So it would say hater, hate, or hather. Hate. It was weird. It looked like hater sometimes. And I was like, there's an E there. Hater. Oh my goodness. But yeah, this woman is a businesswoman. She gets there at 9 a.m. in the morning. The restaurant doesn't even open till 11. And she does not leave until the doors are closed. And that's 6 days a week. She takes Mondays off. That's it. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. And usually when you start working at a restaurant, you discover how dirty it really is and you don't want to eat there again. This place is the complete opposite. You understand just how clean it is. And then you're like, oh. It's like the only thing dirty you're going to find is going to be the floor because you don't have time to sweep and vacuum after each customer. It's just not possible.
Yeah.
But like the walls, everything else, it is clean. I even had to scrub the bathroom walls yesterday, and they do that like once a week. You literally wipe down the bathroom walls. So
but that's the way it should be.
Yeah. Okay, so the first night was a Wednesday. So she was telling me, she's like, this is not busy. Like even Thursday, she said, this is not busy. So I made $75 in 6 hours the first day, and I made $103 in 6 hours yesterday. So that was like 16 something an hour. So I was like, yeah. And if it's a slow day, then you might be making $200 on a weekend.
Yeah, so it's based on age up until you're 21, and then it also has industry standards and that. So like a tradie will get paid more than someone that's in retail.
Yeah. I think the age thing kind of makes sense in a way because a 16-year-old is not supporting a whole family, whereas someone that's in their 30s probably is, or they at least have a spouse.
Yeah.
I think that's why the wages have changed post World War II is because women entered the workforce. So that was the end of like the traditional way that families were, where like the man had to pay everything and the woman would stay at home with the kids. And so once the women entered the workforce, they liked having that autonomy. So they didn't want to leave it when the war ended. So some of them did, but some of them stayed in it. So then the corporate people were like, oh, well, we'll pay the men more because they have mouths to feed, but we won't pay the women, which is why there's the wage gap. I think that's how it started. Was they were like, well,
like with our system here.
Now you can't support a household on one income for a normal job. Like my husband, he's been where he works since 2013. So you're talking like 10 years. He started at $10 an hour. Now he's at like $24 an hour because he always gets like 25-cent, 50-cent raises like every quarter. And they've raised minimum wage at that place where he's at now to like $16.75 is your starting pay. And that's one of the best places you can get around here. That's the highest you're going to get paid is the $16.75 if you don't have a college degree. Like you're not going to get any better than factory. But it's hard work, and it's like 12-hour shifts, and it destroys your body. So I was like, I'd rather make less and not do that damage. But anyway, I was like, I have 2 college degrees, but I'm not using them.
See, here we don't really have like in the like corporate jobs and stuff like that. I believe that there are a lot of like wage gap and all that sort of stuff. But it doesn't, if you work at KFC or Woolworths, or you're just doing the mundane, what they call mundane everyday jobs, like basically worker bees have to work, otherwise the country doesn't run. It doesn't, like, you don't have all of that sort of stuff. You get, like, Nerily works with guys, okay, and she gets paid exactly the same as what they get paid. That they're, as far as I am aware, it's more in your like managerial and all that sort of stuff, where in this country where the problem is your lower end jobs and all the rest of it, you get paid what you get paid. That's it. That's the award wage, and that's what you get paid. So when you're getting up into like salaries and stuff like that, if you don't negotiate, like we have enterprise bargaining here.
I think that's part of it too, is men. I think that it's a 2-pronged thing. One is that men, I think, have a little bit more narcissism sometimes, so they feel like they are like owed this, even if they don't necessarily have the qualifications for it, which is why they'll sometimes apply for jobs they know they're not qualified for, and they still get hired because they go in confident. And with women, it's like a lot of us won't apply for a job if we don't meet every single qualification, because we're like, we don't meet the qualifications. Why would we do that? That's a waste of everyone's time. But also, I feel like a lot of us are not taught to negotiate. We're not taught to like know our worth. And so I think that a lot of times we underestimate our value, whereas men overestimate their value. And I believe
that's a society thing. That's almost like it's ingrained into our DNA, because that's what we've been told for centuries, that we're not worth the ground we walk on, essentially. And that's come through the generations, and it's still here today. Like, I think a lot of women still don't think that they're worth the money that they're worth. And then if someone questions it, we tend to go, oh, well, maybe I'm not worth that much. Like, we start questioning ourselves, even if they do. Like, but we've got enterprise bargaining here too, and so you can you can get what you're worth, basically. But again, it goes back to knowing how to negotiate and all that sort of stuff. And as we, like my husband likes to say, think that your shit don't stink.
I mean, it's true. I mean, I'm like, you know what? Like, I was a gifted student throughout high school. And so your expectations are that you already know everything. And that's why you're in the gifted class. And so you stop learning like English in 8th grade. You don't learn anything past that. You're like reading and analyzing higher level text, but you're not like learning new vocabulary and all this other kind of stuff. So in ways, you get less education because you are gifted, because they just stop with the standard stuff. But I feel like, and this sounds so weird, but hear me out. If you grow up smart and you're like always put in these gifted positions, then I feel like you're kind of set up for failure when you're done with school. Whereas if you grow up and you're like a C average student, or even someone who always fails, you do better when you get into the real world, because you have to fight for every position that you've ever gotten. And you may not have gone to college, so you might have had a little bit of time advantage to like get your foot in the door however you could and work your way up to a higher level.
That's me. I left school at 15, and my partner, his mother died at 15, and his dad went a bit loopy, and he left home at the same time. So, like, we often say to our girls on that, like, you've got to be scrappy to get ahead. Like, the only way, like, if you're, because Nera Lee doesn't want to go to university. She's still going to do university, but she doesn't want to actually go to university. She'd rather do it online. So she's going to take a different pathway. Whereas my girl that's gone to uni, that's what she always wanted to go to uni. She likes to sit in the classroom. She's a teacher, so that's her thing. Whereas Brennan and I have had to be really scrappy, and we've worked some shitty jobs to get where we are right now. You know, like we both own our own businesses. We're self-employed, and you know, and we've worked hard to get where we are, and we've been knocked back, and we've been pushed down, and we've been told we're white trash, and you know, we're all this and we're all that, and no, you can't have that, and push you down again, because we have a real cultural problem here of tall poppy syndrome. If you're looking like you're succeeding, they're going to take you out at the knees any way they can.
Yeah.
You know, and so, yeah, like neither one of us have got, like I was in higher classes and stuff like that at school, but I dropped out because my parents moved on average every 6 months. I was basically for 10 years, I was the new kid, and I was done. By the time I got to 15, I'm like, I am done. I am not going to school anymore. That is it. I am done.
I was like, I went to 3 high schools.
Mm.
My parents bought their first house when I was in 11th grade. And then I went into the military because, again, the whole SMART thing, you get to the system where it's like you're told exactly what you need to do, and then you perform, you meet the metric, and then you're rewarded with the next level. But it's like the real world doesn't work like that. It's all about connections, like who do you know, or like how brave are you going out for jobs you know you're not qualified for, but because you might have been the only one that applied, you got it. So it's
my husband, this is a classic example of guys thinking they're it in a bit, right? I was at the computer down the hall. My husband was on the phone to we were desperate for a job. We had a business on before we moved out here, and our accountant stuffed us around, and we ended up owing more money than we had in the bank, right? And it got to the point where the taxation department said you either pay $500 a week or you go to jail.
Oh my gosh.
End of story, right? There is no grey area. This is the options you have. Pay $500 a week or go to jail. My husband said, give me a week. I hung up the phone, and I'm like, what are you going to do? He goes, and he just opened up the paper, and he was looking through, and he just got his truck license. And he rang this company that were looking for an oversized truck driver. So that is someone that moves big ass boats or mining equipment and all that sort of stuff. I stood in the hallway listening to my husband tell this guy that he had been doing it for ages and all the rest of it, and he could start tomorrow.
Oh
and
my
he
gosh.
got in the car and he left, and I'm looking at, you've never driven a truck. I'm like panicking. He's leaving me in the middle of nowhere, and I'm panicking. I've got 3 young girls, and like I think my youngest was 2 at the time, 1 or 2 at the time, and I'm like, you're about to get in this truck. You've never driven. He's driven trucks like big wheel, like 18 wheelers and stuff like that, but he'd never moved oversized stuff. And he goes, can't be all that hard. Stupid people do it all the time. That was his motto as he was, and I'm like, okay, there's nothing I can do. He's going to do this. He had that job for 2 years. He was moving boats all over the place. The first couple of weeks, I was like this. God, it's going. More so, he was going to kill someone else, and then he just walked straight into that job. And then he went on to mining jobs and all that sort of stuff, and and driving trucks, long haul, and all that sort of stuff. But that was how he initially got into the big rig industry and moving big stuff. And I'm talking stuff that closed down cities.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
my goodness.
Closed down cities to move boats through, like big cruises and all that sort of stuff, to move through the city because you couldn't have cars on the road. And that insanity. And I'm like, dude. But that's determination. That, like, because we had nothing. Like, we both left home at 15. We were children. I have no family to speak of. He had no family left because his dad went nutty. He had his grandparents, but he was still living out of home. His sister had gone off and done her thing. And so essentially we had nothing handed to us. Everything that we have worked hard, been stomped on, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And and so
no one can take that away from you, because it's like I had to work for it, so you can't like downplay that success in any way.
Yeah, like, yes, we might not live in the most flashiest house in the neighborhood, and yeah, we might live 3 hours from a city, but at the end of the day, they're the sacrifices we had to make sure that our girls had something, because we don't want our girls to have to fight that hard to get through life, because it's getting harder to do that. So
Yeah.
You've got to
I had to learn the hard way that the world does not operate on a effort / education equals reward system. That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said. It's determination and confidence. The rest is not really
Well,
that.
that's some nads right there going, yeah, I can drive a truck with a big boat on it. I don't know anything about boats. Like, and now it's a running joke in the family. Goes, I know boats.
I was like, you want to know how silly I was? I was getting pamphlets in the mail when I was 13 from like Harvard and Ivy League schools because I had good grades. So I was on like the National Scholars little list that they would send out. Like they had a little yearbook for it and all this other kind of stuff. So I thought that meant I was going to get a full ride to like Harvard or something. And I was like, oh my goodness. So then I got done with high school, like I was in senior year. And then I was like, oh no, you didn't know, like you're not getting a full ride. You've got to get like all these high SAT, ACT scores. I was like, you've got to write this big old essay. And I was like, I'm not writing any essays. If I have to write an essay to get into the college, it is not the college for me. And just the application fees, they're like $50 for a state school is your application fee. I'm just like, oh my goodness. So then I was like, okay, well, obviously no one's going to pay my way to college. I grew up, I believed that we were like middle class. That's what I thought. No. We were like lower class. We were right above the poverty line and sometimes in the poverty range. But I never knew it because my parents, you know, they made sure we always had a roof over our head and food to eat. So we didn't know until we were adults. And then we appreciate it because we never expected things from other people as far as like kids nowadays are like, oh, you owe me a cell phone. Like I need a cell phone, or I need a car when I turn 16 years old. I need college money. I'm like, no. I didn't expect a penny for college. I didn't expect a penny when I got married. None of that stuff that a lot of other kids, they just expect their parents to pay for. And I'm like, I don't know where that comes from. But I've seen
with our girls. With our girls, we made them work really hard. Like they had to do chores, they have to work hard. When Savannah said that she wanted to go to university, we said, well, you're going to have to go and get a job. You know, you've got to learn time management, all that sort of stuff. She held down 2 jobs while doing senior schooling. And actually, the marks that she got, she could have went into medical, but she's chose teaching instead, and she's doing biology and English. But we decided years ago that if the kids wanted to go to uni, we would pay their uni fees. So we moved out of the city. We downgraded our expenditure and all that sort of stuff. We worked really hard and all that sort of stuff. So now what we've done for her is she still worked. She still had to have money. She still had to buy her own furniture. She still has to pay the rego on, like my husband's in the car industry, so we were able to get her a cheap car. But she's got to pay the rego. She's got to pay the maintenance. She's got to pay her way. But we said that we would pay for her uni fees. And luckily for us, her uni fees it's only going to be, I think by the time she's finished, about $32,000. But when she comes out, she won't have student loans.
Yeah.
So she's going to come out debt free. And that's what we wanted for her. And the same for Nerali. The other one the eldest one doesn't want anything to do with university or anything. So we're off the hook there. But the youngest one, she's still not sure what she wants to do. And so she's just she's actually doing homeschooling for her senior schooling because she just doesn't do well in a classroom.
Yeah.
She uses her powers for evil, not good. Whereas Savannah uses her powers for good.
Man. I was like, I just joined the military so that I would
Yeah.
have school paid for and I wouldn't
Yeah.
have to worry about that and have all of that student debt. My
Mm.
husband's parents, they co-signed his student loans. So they helped him in that way. And he did work. He had like a
Mm.
job at Kroger or whatever, but he
Mm.
never wound up finishing school. And he
Mm.
still owes like over $50,000 in student
Mm.
loans and does not have a degree to show for it because he
Yeah.
kept getting bottlenecked
Mm.
because he liked the one school and he did not want to go anywhere else. And so they kept changing the school catalog so he could like never catch up.
Yeah.
And so eventually he was just like, I'm done. And I was like, you know what? You're making like $24 an hour. You're not going to do much better you know, around here. Because,
Mm.
like,
Mm.
we live in Kentucky. You don't make a ton of money. I was like, I would still like you to finish just because you're so close.
Yeah.
Like, probably less than a semester's worth of classes. I'm like, just finish just so you have the paper.
Yeah.
But but yeah, as far as what you were saying with the kids, I think that's kind of how it should be. Like you help make their life easier in the ways that you can, but
Mm.
also the children not feeling like they're entitled to it.
Mm.
Because that's the
Well,
problem.
see, there's a situation right now where Savannah's out of home. She was paying $200 a week rent. That includes her internet and power and water and everything, not food, but and she lives near a train station, so she's worked out that if she doesn't drive a car, it's a lot cheaper. So she's budgeting and all that sort of stuff. But she moved out with a decent chunk of change. I think she had $11,000 in the bank. From her part-time jobs and collecting cans. Believe it or not, she
Oh my
collected
gosh.
cans, and she'd come home with bags and bags of stuff from school from all the kids and plastic bottles and all that, and she cashed them in. And while she was living at home, she bought books that she wanted to read and all that sort of stuff. But I said to her, how much money have you got left? Because she had to find a job down there. Now, we live 3 hours away, so she couldn't apply for jobs before she left. And so she's got down there and she was finding it hard to find a job and all that sort of stuff and applied and whatnot. And I said to her, like, how's your money going? She goes, oh, I've only got X amount. She goes, I've got to pay rent next week. So she's got to pay $200 a week, $800 a month. And I said to her, look, I'll talk to Dad. And I said to Brendan, I said, look, she's going to struggle paying rent if she doesn't find a job soon. I said, I've given her a month to take a job that she doesn't want. Because we gave her a little bit of leeway to find a tutoring job because that she's going into teaching. It's good practice for her. And I said, what can we do? And he goes, well, we can pay $200 a fortnight. So, but she wasn't going to ask us for that money. Like she didn't say, oh, I need you to pay it. And she was worried, like, I don't know how I'm going to pay it. What should I do? And I said, you're just going to have to take, even if you've got to clean toilets for 6 weeks, doesn't matter. It's money in your pocket. And so we've always taught them that way. And then when I rang her and I said, look, listen, what's the bank account? We're going to pay $400 a month for you. And she's like, no, you can't do that. I'll be like, it's getting down to the wire. We'll do it until you don't need it anymore. And she said, yeah, cool. All right. No worries. But she was like, no, you don't need to do that. But we said to her, we want to do this. We want to make it easy. Your job is to go to school. That's what you're doing.
And it's good that parents can do that.
Yeah.
Because I know there was one time my tire blew, so I had to call my parents to come help me get the spare on because I don't know how to change a tire. And so, and it was nighttime and stuff. I was like, I don't want to get out of the car and all these, like all this stuff. So I called them, and then my dad was like, your tires are bare. Like, I cannot believe that you were driving this car around. So they handed me like $600 and were like, you are getting a full set of tires tomorrow. I don't want to hear any excuses, because they knew if we did it, it would have went on a credit card.
Yeah.
And
then we don't have credit cards. We had credit cards up until 5 years ago, I think. 4 years ago. And I just said to Brandon, that's it, I'm done. And basically we just paid them all out and got rid of them, cut them up, and then that's it. So now if we can't afford it, if we can't afford it, we don't have it. So hence why I've got grey hair.
Oh, I've got some too. You don't see it, but trust me, it's
and no nails. But I worked out at the end of the year, I worked out with my hair how long it was and getting it coloured every 12 to 14 weeks. and then getting my nails done every fortnight, getting the infills and that, I'm saving, and no coffees, not buying coffees every other day. I'm saving about $4,000 a year.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know, like, it's because it's $50 just, or actually it's $65 to get your nails done now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And with my hair, it swung between $325 and $385 because I have really thick hair and it was long. So it takes a lot of color and stuff like that. Like, I'm in the salon all day to get my hair done. And yeah, so I just went, no, that's it, I'm done. I'm not buying into it. So I do my own eyebrows now. I do my own nails. And yeah, well, the hair.
I definitely want to be debt free soon. I was like, that's what I knew I had to get a job, because even if we were making it bills wise, we were not making it as far as paying off debt. And I found out that one of my credit cards is 26.7% interest. I'm like, that should be illegal. Courtney, half the people ordered water. So I don't know why a waitress would care, because it's not really going to affect anything. Because people say you get paid the percentage of the thing. Nobody does that. I mean, some people do. My husband does. He's the kind of person that will whip out a calculator and calculate the 20%. Me, I'm like a $3 person, because I stack my plates. I make it where the only thing you're having to do for me is refill my drink. Like, you're not having to come over a lot of times. So I'm like, here's the $3. Usually my food is like 15. So that's probably more than 20% anyway, or it is 20%. But it's like, food is already so expensive. I don't get mad if I get $1 tip from a table, because I'm like, I'm just glad you're tipping, because I know it's expensive. And it shouldn't be on the patrons to have to pay for the staff. Like, that should be built in with the businesses. I think tipping should just be something extra if you're really good at it and they want
see, we don't have the tipping system here. So yeah, so we don't have it. Like, I used to go to a cafe many years ago when I was in the hospitality industry, like in the hotels, like the casino where I worked, that was owned by Hilton. So a lot of people, Americans were coming, Japanese were coming, Chinese were coming, and they all tip. And so we'd get tips and stuff like that, but it wasn't expected because we're paid the award wage. It's built in. Like, we don't have to rely on those tips to make up our wage. But if I went to a cafe with a group of friends, we used to go every Monday night, and sometimes there could be 15, 20 of us. And we, in the end, just request one waiter that would serve us, and he'd get all our tips. And then the boss turned around, and because we'd all give tips and whatnot, and the boss turned around and said that he had to split the tip with the rest of the staff. That did not go down very well with me or my best friend at the time, and we basically said no. And then he was going to enforce it, so we ended up telling Nathan, there'll be an envelope for you. We'll wait around the corner when you finish work. Just come and get it, and we'll give it to you. And because we don't work on the tipping system, and we thought that was unfair, because he was the only waiter, and sometimes he was serving 20 of us after work. And he never stuffed our order up. He always knew what we wanted. We could sit down, and within 2 minutes, our coffees would be there, because he knew what we had and all the rest of it. Half the time we didn't have to order, because we ordered pretty much the same thing every week. Occasionally he'd say, would you like something different? We've got this on the menu or whatever. So he deserved every cent that we'd given, because sometimes he could end up from that night $150. You know, because everybody would chuck in like $5, $10, whatever. Yeah. And that would be the tip from each person. You've got, you know, up to 20 people, and they've all chucked in $5. That's a fair chunk of change that you're getting. Not everybody could chuck in a tip, but, you know, like, and to split that with people that never even came near your table, like, no.
Like, $3 a person, I think, is a good tip. It's basically like you're giving them $1 for every time they visit your table. Like, that's how I see it.
Fair
But
enough.
also, like I said, I am very, very good when I am the person. Like my table looks like it hasn't been eaten at. My plates are
Mhm.
stacked. The napkins are all on top. The silverware right underneath. So it's like, and if there's stuff that needs to be scraped, it's all on one plate. Like I am a meticulous diner. And I'm like, you can like hold everything in one arm and wipe off the table at the same time by the time I get done.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
just how.
like that when I go to hotels, because I used to do housekeeping at the casino, where you're changing the sheets and the towels and all that sort of stuff. So when I go and stay at a motel or a hotel or something like that, before I leave, I strip off the bed and put everything in a pile. So all they've got to do, and everything's wiped down, and like I service the room before I leave.
Yes,
So really, all they've got to come in and do is disinfect everything and pick up the pile of stuff and make the beds. That's it. If they left
exactly.
me the sheet, they'd probably make the bed. And the kids laugh at me, going, "You know that you've paid for that service." I'm like, "I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's going to make their day. They're going to
It's
walk in
respect.
and go, 'This person's awesome.'"
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Guys pee on the walls. I don't doubt it. I will say that the guys' bathroom definitely stunk, whereas the girls' bathroom did not. And
Mm,
what it is that the urinals don't have water in it. So that's why the boys' restrooms always stink.
mm.
So, but we took a whole thing. They do that too. When we do the deep cleans on the bathroom, we get a big bucket of steaming hot water, pour bleach in it, and then drain that in the urinal. That's sexism, yet there are so many single moms. Exactly. Exactly. And the thing is all they've done is they kind of they haven't lowered the wages, but they haven't raised them because it's like a punishment for women still being in the workforce. Because it's like, oh, you want to be in the workforce? Then we're just going to pay both of you crappy so that you have to do this. There you go. Ha ha ha. You got what you wanted, right? And it's like, no, I feel like any single individual who's working a 40-hour job should be able to pay for their own housing, their own food, and all of their bills. It should not be where it
Mm.
takes two people who have to work. If both people want to work, great. They can go get their coin. If one person wants to stay at home and the other one is making enough money to provide, great. But I'm like, it should be set up where everyone can survive off of a regular job and not have to work more than
Yeah.
48 hours to feed themselves. That's just ridiculous. Think women are scrutinized more. Hubby said, I'm a learn today. Learn what? Man got to support his family. That's a real man, Nicole. This new generation of men don't want to get their hands dirty.
My husband says that all the time. He goes, he looks at the girls, and then he sort of looks at me, and I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Man, it's slim pickings out there for the girls this generation." He goes, "None of them want to work. None of them, like, yeah, it's just like, whoa."
And the divorce rate is so high right now. So high. I
Mm,
had a guy, he was like 28 years old. I'm 33. So this was like last year. So I was 22 and he was 28. And he asked me, he's like, what's the secret? Because it was like, I've been married for like 13 years. It's like, what's the secret? Because the
mm,
divorce rate is like higher than 50%. And
mm,
I was like, this has nothing to do with purity culture. It's just something that I've observed. Don't have sex with that person before you get married to them. Doesn't mean you need to be a
mm,
virgin before you get married. That's not what I'm saying.
mm,
I'm
mm,
saying the person that you
mm,
wind up with, if you wait, there's a higher chance. I said that and making sure that you both have the same definition of marriage, because if you don't have the same definition of marriage, it's not going to work out. And
yeah.
the religions need to have the same religions, because a lot of the times that's going to be the basis of how you raise your kids and how you manage
Mhm.
money and all these other issues. I was like, if you do those three things, you might be okay. Okay.
Well, we don't follow, our family don't follow any religion. I grew
Yeah.
up Catholic. He grew up Anglican. Um, but our immediate family right here, right now, we don't follow any. We would consider ourselves atheists, I guess, because we don't believe in anything. We don't believe in nothing, like good or evil or anything like that. Like none of the whatever, that sort of stuff. Um, Although our girls have gone to Catholic schools because the education is good at a Catholic school. So especially in rural areas and stuff like that. And we don't even, neither one of us believe in the money making side of marriage. So like we have mortgages and we have children, and I mean I've been engaged to him for 20 years, 21 years, but and we've been together that long as well, but we have no desire to walk down the aisle or anything like that. And yeah, so, and
See, one
communication is also another one.
yeah.
If you cannot talk to your partner, if you cannot stand there and tell your partner that he is being a douche and vice versa, that then, you know, without repercussions, then just walk out the door and forget it. And if they stop you, and if they stop, also, I would say to my girls, you know, if you want to go and hang with your girlfriends and your partner's saying no to you and it's not a valid reason in your mind, then you need to really think about whether you want to be with this person, because they
That's a
are
form
some
of
red
abuse.
flags right there. That's
Yes.
controlling and narcissistic behavior, and I would run for the hills.
I think a lot of people don't do that, because the reason why I say like the sex thing is because if that's the foundation, when you're no longer hot and heavy for each other and you're past the honeymoon phase, then what is
Mm,
holding you together? What are you gonna fall
mm,
back on when you start getting into fights?
yeah.
Because eventually you will have fights, even if they're not actual fights, you'll have arguments or
Mm,
disagreements. And it was like me and
yeah.
my husband, we had dated for 11 months before we got engaged, and we'd never had an argument.
Mm,
People were like, just wait till you get married. Oh man, my goodness. But yeah, like there's things too. Like a lot of our dating was having those conversations that you have before you get married,
mm,
because our thing with dating was you date with the intent to possibly marry the person. You don't date to have a good time. So it's
mm,
like a different mentality. Whereas if you date to have a good time, that's great if the other person is on the same page. But if they're not,
mm,
and then
mm,
all of a sudden you wind up married, again, there's going to be problems. But also, like,
mm,
learn long-term partnerships, like what you're talking about. I say that's marriage. It's the same
mm.
thing. Like, you don't have the
Yeah.
document, but it's the same. My
Well,
sister,
here in this country, I don't know what the law is over there, but here, after 6 months, it's considered a common law marriage. And so even if we were to go to court, so we separated and I wanted to take him to court because I wanted half of our belongings or whatever, it is still treated as if it's a divorce. And basically, once it becomes a common law matter, it's about I think it's 6 months. It may have changed, but when I looked into it last time, with my first partner, when I was younger, I made some bad choices and all the rest of it, and I ended up, like, I was with him for 10 years, but we weren't married, but that we had a lot of belongings and all the rest of it. And he kept saying that it's all his because he worked and he had purchased it, but I had stayed at home and maintained the house and all that sort of stuff. And we had a child, and basically he was saying that it was all his stuff, and the police officer turned around and said, no, it is not. He goes, after 6 months of you being together, what is yours is hers, and what hers is yours. It's common law marriage, and so you either divide it up or we go to court and we'll do it that way. And so yeah, which so I didn't need the piece of paper, and it actually saves me a heap of money if I wanted to get out of a relationship, because I don't have to go and get divorced and I don't need a lawyer to do it.
I think one of the reasons why my sister has not married, because she's been with the guy that she's with for like over 7 years, is that she had
Yeah.
already picked the wrong person, and that ended
Mm-hmm.
badly, and they got a divorced, and he is the child of divorced parents, and neither one of them want to do that.
Mm.
So they're just like,
Yeah.
but they call each other husband and wife. She has his last name on her Facebook account. Like
Mm-hmm.
they literally just don't
Mm-hmm.
have the paper. They share their money. She's actually
Mm-hmm.
supporting them right now with her being on YouTube because he has severe physical disabilities, and so he had to
Mm-hmm.
leave his job because he was working as a lineman, and it's like hard, especially when you have like back issues. I think he had like a the sclerosis, the curved back thing. I don't know what it's
Yep.
called.
Scoliosis. Yep.
Yeah. So it was really hard on him, but I'm like, I just think the important things is having the foundation with like communication, seeing what, like how you'll deal with stuff. I think if you do have a religion and you both agree and you're like the same place in it, it kind of solves those issues for you. Because it'll be like the whole thing with like the Christian thing is that when you're married, you're one. So most Christian couples share a bank account. So then you don't have the argument of like the roommate situation of pay me $300 for rent. And then you get mad because they don't have the 300 because that can cause more conflict. But if it's all in one, then it's like, okay, well, you know, but then you do have to have discussions if one person is blowing all the money. So I just think marriage is difficult for everyone, but the more things you have in common as far as your views on things, the easier it'll go.
And the one thing that people don't talk about is, you know, some people have this skewed view of what marriage is. Marriage is an ebb and flow. Some days you're going to hate your partner, other days you're going to worship the ground they walk on, you know. And then there's also lulls in the romantic side of it as well. You know, sometimes you're highly focused on the house and the kids and all that sort of stuff, and the last thing you're thinking about is what's going to be happening in the bedroom. And it goes both ways. It's not just always the woman. It can go both ways. And a lot of people don't realize that this is marriage. Marriage is not this. It is this. And they just don't get it. But I was just reading Courtney's young folks these days can't commit to relationships. I had this conversation with my daughter last night because she's got a new boyfriend. And she said, I said, so I use date, like they've been talking for ages online and all that sort of stuff. And they've gone to functions and all that sort of stuff together. And I said, are you boyfriend and girlfriend yet? She goes, no. And I'm like, you do know you're in a relationship, right? You do know what the definition of a relationship is. She goes, we're not talking about that. And off she popped. I'm like, I don't understand.
See, but like a long time ago, they had the whole courting thing. So you would date multiple people and then you would enter into a long term, which I think in some ways it is better because then once you found what you want, you know that that's what you want. I didn't do a lot of dating beforehand. So a lot of people were worried when me and my husband were 19 years old and we were like, hey, we're getting married in 2 weeks. They were like, what? But when we got engaged, we had been dating for a year. No, we've been dating for 11 months. I hadn't had any issues. I was in the military. He was doing college. So we had to do long distance for like 5 of those months. And then he came up to see me. We got engaged, and then he went back to school, and I was still in the military. And then 6 months after we got engaged, we got married at 19. So like it was pretty fast, but like we've been fine. But I don't know what I was getting at. I lost my thought.
It's all good.
There was a lot of comments I skipped over, so let's get to those. Wanted to go to a big fancy college, but only had $500 scholarship, so local college it was. Yeah, I think sometimes we're lied to growing up, and we think we'll get the world, and then we don't, and we're like, "What is this?" Like, it can be disappointing. No 100,000 student loans like some folks. Yeah, because military. Yay, military for the win.
Yeah.
Hey, Amy.
Hey, Amy.
This was supposed to be a reading thing, but we just wind up talking for 5 hours. It's okay. I'm the same way, Heather. Not sure exactly what that was about.
Cleaning the tables.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Learning about
that was
big rigs.
Yeah, when she said I'm a learning today, that was about that.
Slim pickings, they want to go viral on the internet.
Yeah, fully.
Your partner should not be your end all. Hanging with my friends is the reason I'm still married. Keeps me sane.
No, see, my partner on Friday nights, my partner doesn't stay at the house because I do a Zoom meeting with all my friends that are all over the country, and we basically have a party every Friday night. We have a few drinks, or we just chit chat and whatnot. So he goes over to his workshop and spends the night over there doing his thing, and I do my thing, and it works because I don't want to kill him.
Yeah. I think independence is good. Like, my husband's here, but you haven't seen him pop in the room yet. He's been here for he just came home for a 12-hour shift. I'm surprised he hasn't popped in the room.
Yeah.
But he's been here for 2 hours now, and he hasn't bugged me. Now, if I wasn't on a live, he would have. He would have got it. He knew what I was doing. But we're very independent. So I have my own office. He has his own office. We do our thing throughout the day. If we get up, use the restroom, or go fix ourselves a meal, we usually go into the other person's room, hug them, give them a kiss on the head or whatever, and then go back to doing our own thing.
I did have to train my husband when I first started seeing him. He's 6 years younger than me as well. So when I first started seeing him, he had not had some great relationships and whatnot. And the train's probably the wrong word, but essentially I had to get something out of him. He was quite, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I just looked at him and went, dude, my parents couldn't even tell me what to do. What makes you think that you're going to tell me what to do? And I did that for about, 12 months. And then he realized that I wasn't easily swayed as a person, and that I knew my own mind and all that sort of stuff, and that he didn't have to be that way. But that was his trauma from a previous relationship. That person that he was with was not truthful, was not treating him with the respect that he deserved, and all the rest of it. And so he had that trauma from that relationship, whereas I'm like, I'm not that person. I'm not her. I don't do that. That is out of order. These are my morals. These are the things that I don't accept. And these are and all the rest of it. And once I got past that part with him, and he realized, and all it was that he had to realize that I was not that person, that I wasn't going to do those things, he was fine. And now we have very separate lives, and we have very independent lives, but we always meet in the middle. We're always working.
Nighttime cuddles. Stephen will come in here at like 9 o'clock, and he'll be like, 1 hour to bedtime. Because I used to get on to him because he would come in here at 10 o'clock on the dot, and he'd be like, bedtime, like, come to bed now. And I'm like, no, I need time to wind down, understand that it's bedtime, and then finish up whatever I'm doing so that my brain's not continuing to go.
I've been sitting in the lounge room with my husband at 9 o'clock, because we generally go to bed around 9 o'clock. He turns the TV off, and I just look at him and go, so I guess I'm finished watching TV for today. And he goes, oh, sorry. Turns the TV back on. I'm like, I don't mind that you want us to go to bed, but a little bit of, hey, are you ready for bed yet? Would have been nice. That's just not, you're finished. I was watching that.
Sometimes he'll do crap like that, and I'll be like, okay, because anytime he does something that's controlling, it's always like for my best interest. But sometimes I'm like, I don't care that it's for my best interest. And I have to look him dead in the eyes with my eyebrows raised. And I'm like, I'm an adult. I can make bad decisions if I want to. He might annoy me for like 15 minutes, but if I stay adamant that he's not going to get his way, and he knows that I'm like being firm about it, he'll eventually leave me alone. But like, he's turned off the internet before to be spiteful. He is very passive aggressive. But so I pick my battles. He's learned, because I'll agree to stop whatever I'm doing, unless I'm doing a live. I'll agree to stop whatever I'm doing and go cuddle with him until he starts snoring. Because he's out like a light 5-minute type. I'm like, I will do that. I will compromise. I'll come to bed with you, wait till you snore, and then I'll get up and come back and do my own thing. But yeah.
For the most part, he doesn't do like he never. If I don't do housework, so I'm busy or whatever, he won't. Because we made a deal that because he could earn more money than me, so he went out and worked. I stayed home, looked after the house, and I've just continued on with that because, quite frankly, I don't like how he cleans the house. So just stay out of it. You're putting stuff where I don't know where it is, and I'm not got to find it. And so I don't care. And he never, if I don't do the dishes for 2 days, not that happens very often, but if I don't do the dishes for 2 days because I've been busy, he will not say a cracker about it, because his motto is, if I'm not willing to do it, I ain't bitching about it, because if I bitch about it, you're gonna make me do it.
Oh man. Our thing when we moved into our house, so we have like over an acre. We have a big yard, like it looks huge. And so at the time we had a push mower. We didn't even have a riding lawnmower. So it would have took several hours to do the yard. So I looked at my husband and I said, honey, I said, I don't agree with gender roles. However, you do the yard, you do the trash, you do the quote unquote man work, and I'll take care of the house. He said, okay. So in the winter time, he would get a little naggy sometimes. Like if he didn't have a dish that he needed for something, he would get a little naggy. And I'll be like, honey, I said, you haven't had to mow in like 2 months. You don't get to complain. But he's always helped with trash, but he makes me do the bathroom trash, but he'll do the other trash. And then we both do laundry. But I fold it because he says I'm the only one who knows how to fold it right so that it'll fit in his drawers. The other week I was being funny and I folded all my clothes meticulously and put them in my drawers, but for his, I was just like, you know what? He probably don't care. So I didn't even like turn them right side out, nothing. I just shoved them in the drawer where they went. So I organized it, but I just shoved them in there. He noticed. He was like, honey, I want you to fold my clothes again. He was like, you just shoved them in there. They're all wrinkled. I was like, he was like, your audio when you fold the clothes. I was like, okay, whatever. But anyway, and that was the comment from earlier. So this one is interesting because I did see a TikTok video the other day, and it was this guy that was talking to a single mother. She had to like walk away in tears because he had said, she had asked him, would you be willing to date a single mom who's a millionaire? And he said no. And she was like, but she's a millionaire. And he's like, no, because if we get together, I'm going to form a bond with your child. And then when we break up, I no longer get to communicate with that child. Plus you get half of my stuff. Plus you get this. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I think it's like a two-way thing as far as problems with commitment now. Especially if things like pregnancy pop up, because then it's like, well, if you're not in a committed relationship and then you get pregnant, are they going to take responsibility or not? I don't know. It's hard. I just think it's all hard. I'm glad I'm not dating. See, if it's not defined, then one of them hooks up with someone, then they fall back justification. Yeah. Yeah, if you're not in a committed relationship, you sleep around with whoever you want. Had 3 days of just hating his face. Then I cracked an egg. Shell fell in my bowl and he was walking by. He reached over my shoulder. Let me get that for you, baby. Oh, man. Well, my husband's usually it is like, we're very comfortable with each other because we've been together for like 13 years. So it is almost like the perfect roommate type thing where they're always there, but you can also ignore each other and have your own space. And then at nighttime, it's like, okay, now we're a couple. Like what?
During daylight hours, I got stuff to do, dude. Like, yes. You do you, I'll do me, and I'll see you tonight at the dinner table.
Yeah, but every once in a while he'll do something really sweet, and then I'll be like, "Oh, hi! This is why I married you." Oh man, Jerk made me fall in love with him again. Why he has to be so sweet. I was just wanting to be mad. Oh my goodness. Whenever me and my husband go out somewhere, like if we go over to family or something, anytime where we're in a group with other people, we are all over each other. And people are like, y'all are sickening. But when we're alone and we're in our house, we're just like separate.
Yeah, my husband's not down for the public displays of affection.
I mean, it's not really, it's more so of like, he might stand behind me and have like his hands on my shoulders, or I might have my hand, it's
Yeah,
not like my tongue going down his throat in front of people. We don't do that. But yeah. Oh hell no, the internet closed my laptop one time, and I was on a video chat with a friend, and I was like, oh no, you didn't. He like went whoop, and it ended the chat and everything. I was like, oh my goodness. Oh man. Sorry about the you should see my text message. I use swipe, and there's always
Yeah, I'm a cryptic texter too. So like I'm sending you a
pregnancy is avoidable, and he would get her money too. So that's dumb. I didn't think about the fact that he would get money.
Was he talking about forming a bond with the child that she already had?
Yes. So
Yeah.
it was the child that she already had. And it's like, I could see the fear of that. But it's like, it's sad because it's like, you know, everybody deserves love, whether they have kids or not, you know? So I'm just like,
But at the same time, if he's saying no, then that woman had to respect that because that's his choice.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm like, hey, if there's a red, it's not even a red flag, but it's like, what do you call it? There's like certain things that are like an automatic no for you. I can't remember.
Yeah, a hard no. Yeah, like that's a line that he didn't want to cross. Yeah.
So yeah, because I was like, I want someone. So the superficial things where I want someone who's taller than me, because I'm 5'10". I'm like, I want a guy who's taller than me. So that was the superficial thing that I wanted. And then otherwise, I was like, I don't want them to drink, smoke. I don't want them to, what was the other thing? Cuss. I didn't want those three things. Because I was like, I didn't do any of those
you wouldn't
things.
have like you won't like my man then because like he swears like a trooper.
I was like, I didn't want any of those things. So I was like, this is what I want. And then I wanted someone who had the same religion, because again, I was always taught that if you did have the same, and then if all of your reasonings for things come from the same place, then without even having the discussion, you already know you're in agreement. So there's like less probability to butt heads. So I was like, that's what I wanted. Now, as we've gotten older, we are a lot less like religious type stuff. So like when we were dating in high school, it was like, you know, my dad was like, the dating rule for any guy that I went out with was you have to go to church. It doesn't have to be our church, but you have to go to a church. And so my husband started going to my church. Once we moved to Florida when I was in the military, I still went to church, but my husband did not. And so he hasn't been doing church for several years. And now he couldn't even if he wanted to, because he works on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So he could only do like a Wednesday. He still believes, but we aren't. I think we've both deconstructed a few things that we were taught to believe. And one of the things that's made that easier is the fact that his family, they were kind of like the what would you even call it? I guess like a Christmas mass Catholic. So they don't really do anything other than like show up to church for the holidays. And so they've always been very like liberal and stuff. So as we've become less conservative, it's like, okay, whereas my family, it's like, no, they're like way over here. So they don't know about my YouTube channel, because I wouldn't be able to say nothing on here, because they'd be like, what? You got the vaccine? What? But his
Oh,
family,
they wouldn't like me then because I'm triple vaxxed.
yeah. His
I'd
family,
be all sorts of red flags for them.
after the Brett Kavanaugh thing, I switched from Republican to Democrat because I was like, Republicans can no longer take the high ground when they let someone like Brett Kavanaugh into the Supreme Court. So I'm switching to the dark side. And that's what I said. I was like, I'm going to the dark side. Because we were always taught, like, Christians vote Republican. You do not vote Democrat. Like, that was a thing. Because I was raised fundamentalist. Now, I didn't know that that was like a thing. But then I've been watching Reads with Rachel, and I'm like, oh, okay. She calls it cult adjacent. And because there's like it's very fear-based and it's very specific.
I like that. A cult adjacent. That's
Cult
good.
adjacent,
I like that.
it's not a cult, but it's very, very
Very
strict.
cult-like.
Very strict. And so I'm like, yeah,
Is
okay.
that actually true that predominantly Christians vote?
You vote
Republican.
Republican because the Democrats, they just see all of the Democratic Party as people who approve of LGBT stuff and abortions.
Okay.
And they're like, you
That
can't
makes sense.
vote for the baby killers and the gay people. You got to vote over here for Republicans. But then when you look into all of the things, it's like, okay, even if you are against those two things because you feel like your beliefs are backed up by particular scriptures, there is still so much more going on outside of that. And like I said, that's the thing. People are like, you feel like you're taking the high road because like the Republican is the pro-life side. So it's like we're on the high road. But look at all of the other things that they've done that are not good. And it's both sides, really. So honestly, I'm in the middle. But I'm like, you know what? Even I was like, here's what's the funny thing. Even when I was still Republican, I was like, it would be funny to like switch the ballot or whatever to be register as Democrat so I could vote for the best of the worst to get them over. I was like, strategically, that would make sense. I'm really mad. Okay, when I know we're not supposed to get into like religion and politics and all that stuff, but we've already started it. I'm really mad that Donald Trump plans to run again, and so does Biden. And I'm like, Donald,
but my husband said the other day that there's someone going to force Biden to go for medical cognitive tests before he can run again.
I don't know, but I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
my husband, like, I have no idea how your politics works. I'm going to plead ignorance here. That's why I asked the question. Is that right? Like, I'm going to plead ignorance because, quite frankly, it confuses the bejesus out of me, and I don't have the brain power to work out another political system.
Yeah.
He, on the other hand, loves it. We have had some rip snorting arguments because he tries to shove it down my throat, and I'm like, I live in Australia, dude. Like, I only have the mental capacity to deal with the Australian politics. You know, I'm just going to plead ignorance on the American politics. I do not have the mental capacity to get into that.
Both of them need to kick rocks, and if Biden goes for a medical sanity test, then Trump needs to too.
Well, yeah.
Trump has already been indicted. Why in the world do they want to make him run again? And here's the other thing too. Trump never would have won if less people were allowed to be on the preliminaries. It always gets screwed up with the primaries because you have too many candidates, and then the person that people would want least winds up having the small majority, and then the other ones drop out of candidacy, and then they wind up being the person that's like on the final ballot, and that's always what screws it up. Always what screws it up. If Donald Trump had been against anyone other than Hillary Clinton, the Democrats would have took it because too many people hate Hillary Clinton. Because even the Republicans, the majority of them...
Why do they hate Hillary Clinton?
She's very conceited. I saw stuff with her even in like before she ran for president. And I didn't like her. I thought she was very conceited. She's also extremely pro Planned Parenthood, which is very anti-Republican. So people would be like, we hate Donald Trump, but we hate him less than we hate Hillary, so we'll vote for Donald. But I think I remember it was only like 33% of Republicans who actually wanted Donald Trump. And it was mostly people that were a lot older, because they just see Donald Trump as being a businessman. All I really knew about him when he was running was the money, 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 the show that he had. So a lot of people saw him as like the celebrity. But
see, like I knew some more of Trump than that when he came in. The dude has a screw loose. Like he's not dealing with a full deck up there for sure. Some of the stuff that he says is just like
he commented on like I can't remember what place it was, but there was 5 black men who were charged and sentenced to prison for the assault of a white woman. I guess it was like in the 80s or something. They served time. Like one of the guys I think was in there for like 13 years. They were all exonerated. And then Trump put out a whole article afterwards saying, well, it doesn't really matter. Like they would have needed to serve time for something. Like even if they didn't do this, they were obviously criminals. And I'm like, really? Like these were kids. Like these were kids. And I'm just like,
and he's so like he's chauvinistic, misogynistic. He's all he's just, and not only that, he's orange.
He is orange.
Lay off the tanning beds, mate. Like all the whatever cream you're using, get a different one. Oh my god.
Oh man. I'm gonna read a bunch of these because I'm super behind with it, but
yeah.
I think I already read that one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
read that one. That one. I think we were down to where
was it this one? See, he was ending the relationship before having one. He have a crystal ball or something. How did the dude know it wouldn't last 50 years? You wouldn't.
But it was a hard line for him. He did not want to get attached, because not only if it didn't work, not only was he going to have problems with detaching from that child was also going to have, and you don't know what the backstory was. Was she already married and had that child already gone through one divorce? And he didn't want to be that guy that, hurt that child's mother again, or whatever the case may be. I mean, it's not to say that he was going to hurt her. It could have been the other way around. But that child was going to be affected by that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I take my hat off to him. If that was a hard line for him, I take my hat off to him for sticking to it. Yeah. And money doesn't guarantee that you're going to be happy either.
Yeah. I think that her thing with saying like if she was a millionaire was the fact that I guess the guy wouldn't feel like she was a gold digger, or that if there was a millionaire, he wouldn't have to actually take care of the kid because she could just hire a nanny and they could go do whatever they want. I don't know what like the reasoning was for her putting the question that way. I don't know. She won a lottery of sorts. No one wants to be tethered to a pessimistic boob. And I already read that one about the president stuff. He pays folks to take tests for him. Oh gosh. She was hiding that was Hillary. Oh yeah, because stuff leaked with her before the election. USA is sexist too. I think many white people believe they're going to be rich and take over the US with him in power. Yes, didn't he have like actual Proud Boys and stuff? Also, I need someone. I haven't done any research, so forgive me for being.
I just read Amy's comment that popped up, a new blooper.
Oh. I need someone to explain to me what Antifa means, because when I was Republican, it was seen as a very bad thing, but I was watching way too much Fox News, so I don't actually know what Antifa is. Just that Republicans hate them. So are they an actual terrorist group, or like what? I don't know what they are. But because I've seen it connected with the liberal side lately with the gun stuff, and I'm like, I don't know I don't understand. I don't know what it is. But Central Park 6. Yes. Yes. Oh, so it was 6. I thought it was 5 for some reason. My goodness. Hey, you're still on was on Princess's Discord friends. I didn't know she was having them. But you can come join us if you want. Either stay in the comments or you can pop on if you want. We were supposed to be reading, but we just talked for 2 hours. Last time me and Nicole did this, we were on here for 5 hours, didn't do a single sprint. We might have did like a 30-minute at the very end. I can't remember. It's not good.
We could probably break the 2 hours up with a 30-minute.
I think they should do like for the presidential thing. I think that, well, with this one, I'm scared for our country if it's going to be Trump against Biden, because what winds up happening is even during the preliminaries, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party pick the person that they want to win, and they throw all their financial backing on them. It doesn't matter if any other Democrat wins. If Biden runs, he will be the one that winds up being the front runner. It just, the incumbent always winds up being the front runner. I feel like with the fact that Trump has already been indicted, he should not be eligible, and they're wasting all of our time allowing him to run. And
I thought that was a law, like if you've been indicted for something, you can't run for the presidency. Like if you have a criminal record or anything like that, you can't run for. Isn't that part of your system?
I would hope, but he's been indicted, but I don't think he hasn't been like given his sentencing yet. And it might be that they somehow knock it down to like a bunch of misdemeanors instead of felonies. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I think they need to have a cutoff age for the presidents to run, and I think it needs to be like 60, which sounds young. However, men die sooner. And so I'm like, there's
Biden's the proof of that. Like you just have to see, like he does not have all his faculties right now. Like he definitely has some sort of dementia going on there. And to have someone in younger that still has their faculties and is fit and healthy and all that, that's what you want running the country. Like I don't think we have an age.
We have an age minimum, which I believe is 35, which might sound a little young, but I'm 33, and I'm thinking about like if I had stayed in like the military or if I'd started off in a government position, that's a long time within that. So I could see you having the experience necessary to make decisions.
But at the end of the day, like
younger than 35.
Like you've still got a lot, like even if you were 35, you've still got a lot of people around you that are advising you.
Exactly. And if you stay in for 8 years, then you're like almost 40, you're really 43. So I think it's good that we have a cutoff for how many times you can be in office.
Yeah, we don't have that here.
Biden technically has been in office for 3 terms because he was vice president twice, right? Pretty sure.
I think he was.
Pretty sure Obama got twice. I was like, it's been a while, but Courtney said he had zero experience. He had zero. I'm confused. I think I missed
zero experience.
Trump. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Let's see here. It's not.
I mean, any president that recommends that you can drink disinfectant to get rid of COVID really shouldn't be running for president.
Yes. Condemn innocent kids out of racism.
Or, stands on like that situation where they stormed the where he said, I can't even remember what it was for now, but what I seen on the news where he was giving a speech out the front and they stormed Capitol Hill or wherever they were, where all the riots happened and they stormed in and they were going to hang someone and all the rest of it. We've seen all that on our news here.
The January 6th insurrection.
Yeah. Like he was, that was like from where I was sitting, that was a hate speech, that was. And that was just causing trouble and giving a voice to the people that really shouldn't have a voice, like.
I will say one thing, it was an entertaining 4 years, if not a disheartening 4 years. It was definitely entertaining. He was the only president that people remember as far as like always being at the forefront of news.
Mm,
Twitter. You
mm,
could not know what Trump was doing, because I agree with what Nell is saying here. In the past, it's generally been like this. The president is just kind of a face and a name that
mm,
you're given. They're not
mm,
really the people running the show. But with Trump, because he was so vocal and he has so many diehards, like for him as an individual,
mm. Well,
he
at the core of it, I mean, Trump's a narcissist, and he's always going to want the attention on to be on him, and he likes to be the center of attention. That is his MO. Even prior to being in power and all the rest of it, as a human being, that is the way he's always been. The center of attention always had to be on him, and whatnot. That's his MO. So it was given that he was going to be like that. I mean, I don't know how it looked from your perspective, but from our perspective, being on the outside looking in, you could see it was going to go badly. Like, it was not going to end well. And some of the footage that we got to, I don't know whether you got to see it, like his parties off the side, his advisors and all the rest of it, his media people, he'd be saying stuff, and the look on their faces were priceless, because they'd be like, that's not what we just got. Like, you could see it. They were like, that's not what we just got 5 minutes ago. No, he's gone off script. Like, and you could see the panic just going through the people. Like, so from my point of view, sitting over here in Australia and looking in, it was comical. Like, it was really comical, and just seeing the reactions of the party and stuff like that, it was just wild.
I want to see a president who's between 35 and 60, who is
Hmm.
not a millionaire, who has
Hmm.
served active duty in the military, and has had a role in small government, meaning
Hmm.
like a mayor or like a smaller level where they're actually having to deal with the people directly
Hmm.
and can see the consequences of their actions
Hmm.
and don't make a bunch of money doing it. So like
Hmm.
a mayor of a town or something.
Hmm.
um, that's who I want to see the president. I think that
See,
for a president, because of the amount of control that they have with the military funding, weapons, all of that kind of stuff, they should have to serve active duty before they're
hmm.
allowed to be the president. I think that should be a requirement. Even like the royal family has like their princes and stuff even serve in the military. I think that should be a thing in the US. And I think that there should be an income cutoff for the person who runs, because once you're making like $1 billion a year, you cannot tell me that you relate to the regular people. So I think there needs to be some sort of number, and
Hmm.
maybe it's a lot higher than what the number would be in my mind. Maybe it's something like $500 million instead of like $1 million, but like represent the average person,
Hmm.
because that's what you're supposed to do. You're making decisions for the average person. It shouldn't be for the wealthy people that you're making all
Hmm.
the decisions for. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, hear me out. Okay, now. He's a character. President should represent all the people. He did an interview saying he really, really see now. I know he'll be thinking that, but I didn't know he actually said it.
It's the
My
same as when the microphone caught him saying about just grab him in the snatch, and they're yours. Like, when he was talking about women, and it's just like, dude, like, who says that? And then he got all upset because it was was that was recorded in the dressing room. Well, dude, you said it. Like, it's on audio. You can't say that you didn't say it. It's your voice, you muppet.
yeah. There are episodes of Girl Meets World where they wanted Eric to run for president. If you watch those episodes, the logic they used to pick Eric is the same logic they used to pick Trump. But the joke was on them because they were not expecting him to not listen to what he was told.
Mm,
Oh, got it. Got it.
mm,
Because like the
mm.
going off script thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we've been talking for 2 hours straight.
I have to get this book finished today. And you've got 2 mangas to read.
And I was supposed to write. Like, the purpose was be like, oh, I've got some dedicated time. I can like read for one sprint, write for the other. And now I'm like, it's 8:30. I'm hungry. Like,
Well, it's almost lunchtime here, and I haven't had breakfast.
my
So
goodness. Okay, I guess we're gonna do a sprint.
and we're at the end of the comments, so
Yeah, and then by the time we get off here, we're gonna be like, yes, you have lost 50 subscribers. You talked about religion, politics, and sexual activity.
well, at the end of the day, we haven't said anything out of like, yeah, we haven't lost our viewers, so that's a good thing. Like,
We think. I lost 1 subscriber. I was correct that I would lose a subscriber. I think I've kind of figured out that I'm mostly, I mean, what's funny is that my stats show that I have a majority male audience, even though they don't interact. But it shows that it's like 60% male, and older. I think it's like an older. So I don't know. It's really interesting because the people that interact versus the people that view are very different. And I never know who's watching me, and I never know what they think. I've become more vocal. I try to stay away from anything controversial because I have high rejection sensitivity. So even after this, I'll be like, oh, the fact that I mentioned certain things would like get me canceled. And I've been canceled before. So like if you saw that I was a dick video, you know. It's like, I know.
Look, at the end of the day, like, they can't really hold it against you because I was asking the questions.
Oh, I don't know.
With the politics stuff, I was asking the questions because I don't understand.
I don't even think that. I think it's more of the like the sex discussion prior to that. People might think it was like judgmental or that sort of thing. But I don't know. I always expect the worst. But I've gotten more comfortable with speaking because after making the I was a dick video.
That was such a great title. I was a dick.
I was like, that's about as simple as I could make it. And like, I was like, hey, this is the worst thing I've ever done. So if you watch this and you still like me, like, I don't really think there's anything else I can do to offend you.
Look, at the end of the day, everybody makes mistakes, and those that sit there and throw those stones in their little glass houses, I guarantee you, if you went digging a little bit deeper, they've made some slip ups in their life as well. I would not even begin to sit here and say that I haven't stuffed up somewhere in my life, because I have, like, and I think it's very presumptuous of people who. And judgmental, like, they go around, don't judge me, but they're being judgmental themselves because they're trying to cancel someone who has made a mistake and is trying to fix their mistakes and trying to learn. And if you're not someone that has had many experiences outside, your own experience, it's hard to know what's right and what's wrong. And the only way that you're going to understand what's right and wrong is by making mistakes. And everybody, that's right, Amy. Everybody is capable of dickness.
Dickishness.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we all and we all suffer from foot and mouth disease. Like, we all say things that we shouldn't say. And Unsub Club. And that's right. Live your truth, lady. That's right.
See,
Did you hear that, lady?
The thing that I'm like, a lot of times, the way that my opinions have shifted has been based on responses from other people, because you want to stay in a comfortable bubble. So it's like, oh, well, if I'm mostly having interactions with this type of people, then it's okay for me to have this opinion because I know they agree with me. And then when you switch, it's like, okay, well, this is how I actually think now. Like, this is me. This is not based on outside voices. And so there's the comfort, again, with being in a group, but it also feels weird because it's like what seemed like the minority is now the majority. And so it's like, it's weird to like switch
Yeah.
over.
See,
Like,
and I think, and a lot of time too, like I had this conversation with my husband a couple of weeks ago now. Like there's people out there that like the cancel culture and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, at the end of the day, like, do they really have an effect? I mean, look at, I mean, Joe Rogan is a perfect example. I don't necessarily like agree with what he says or anything like that, but he's been cancelled more times than, like every other week that dude seems to be on the cancel, getting cancelled and all that. So like you see the stories and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, do they really have an effect? Like, and
I think it depends on the person. I think here's the truth. Cancel culture does not work if the person is a narcissist, because they do not care what you think to begin
yeah,
with.
well,
They're
Joe
not
Rogan's definitely
hurt
in that category.
by any comments that you make.
Yeah.
Cancel culture does not work to change the opinions of the person that you are canceling, because all it does a lot of times, so they might, like me, when I was canceled, I felt bad that other people were hurt by what I said, but I didn't feel like what I said was wrong at the time. That took years of like self-reflection and learning on my own. I don't think that
That's called
anyone,
growth. That
yeah,
is called growth.
and yelling at someone on the internet, saying you want to beat someone up, or like, let's go get her, jump her, someone better stab her, like that sort of thing does not work. It works to make the person feel uncomfortable and like put in a dangerous situation. And like me, it gave me
And fearful as well. Like
very heightened anxiety and like just feeling like the world hates you because you're literally being attacked, and like physical repercussions. Like people made a joke out of this when I said it, but it was true. Like I literally gave myself a urinary tract infection and like panic attacks when all of that was going on. And the thing is, I'm a strong individual. I do have mental illness, but I've never had thoughts of self-harm or suicidal ideation. That's just never been something that I've considered. Like I've had intrusive thoughts, like pop the trunk on your hood so it'll pop up when you're driving, but that's from my OCD. Those aren't like actual thoughts. It's like, this is what you don't want to happen, so we're going to make you think of it. Like, don't get too close to the ledge, you'll fall off. Like, but the thing that I am worried about is that you get someone that's not like me, someone that does have suicidal ideation already, or they've already struggled with something like self-harm, and someone is going to die from people canceling them. And no matter what the person says that's harmful, it does not constitute their death from people attacking. So I don't think that cancel culture and the thing that I went through was right by any means. I don't think that it was the proper response because of the negative effects that it can cause, and because it doesn't actually cause change. So if you're not wanting the person to change, then all you're wanting to do is show them the hate that you received from them. So you're combating hate with more hate, and that doesn't do anything.
It doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't work.
And it brings more attention to it, which hurts more people, because then it's like, okay, if 5 people see a hateful post and they're angry about it, they can report it if they want to, or they can block the person. They can even put in the comments like, I don't like this, I wish you would delete it, this is hurtful. And then move on from it. Don't quote tweet it for 50 more people, because all you're doing is saying, hey, I found something bad, let me seem like
well, that's it. Well, as I said to my partner when we were talking about it, I'm like, it's like when you've got a 2-year-old. Like 2-year-olds in their own right are terrorists. They terrorize the people around them, and there's no negotiating with them or anything like that. So the only way sometimes to combat that is to ignore it. Not ignore it so you don't grow from it, but ignore the bad behavior, get rid of the bad behavior, just delete it, like in the comments and all the rest of it. And that's what I said to him. Sometimes you've just got to let it go, because the more airtime you give it, the more people are going to get hurt by it.
And if you're actually concerned that something is hurtful and then you choose to quote tweet it, I feel like when you do it, you feel like you're spreading awareness to protect others so that they can like block the person and not see further hate from them. But you're still spreading the thing that you're deeming to be hurtful, which means that more people are going to be hurt. You're defeating.
It makes you just as bad as the person that did it originally, because you're spreading it around.
Yeah. And it's like, I can understand where the people are coming from that do that. So I don't have like hate for people that do that, or even people that were making fun of me and spreading it, because I understand where it came from.
Yeah.
And like, I don't get to police other people's reactions to something that I did. But at the same time, as like an outsider, just looking on it from the whole picture, like, and I've done it too. Like I feel like everyone's done it at some point. Even if you're not sharing directly or saying the person's name who did something, you're making commentary about the thing that they did and like making fun of it. And it's like, it can bring good conversations. And it can make people feel seen when you're backing them up and being like, yes, I hate that this is happening. Or like, I hate that this group of people is being oppressed at this time. But it's still just like reiterating that it's happening. And so just acknowledging it itself is kind of, it's weird, because it's like you want to acknowledge it to show that it's real. But at the same time, the more you acknowledge it, the more that it happens, because you continue to see it. It's like the negative bias.
It's a tricky situation. Like, as you said, you want to bring attention to something that has been wrong, fundamentally wrong, but at the same time, if you're, I'm of the mindset that work locally, don't try and work globally. So if you concentrate in your own community, that's the better place to start. And I feel that and this is just my personal opinion, and I feel that a lot of people sometimes look at it too big. Instead of focusing small, they look at the global situation and want to be heard on a global scale instead of being heard in their local community. Because I think if we all start in our local community, starting with ourselves and then our local community and our children or other people's children or whatever the case may be, you can get more done that way than trying to focus on the globe. That's my philosophy. Always start. Yeah. It can sound selfish by saying focus on you. And I'm talking about growth. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm talking about personal growth and stuff like that. You've got to start with yourself first and then your community, and then start branching out that way. Because if you start in community and you start with one or two people, those two people then will go and do their two people. And before you know it, you have it spreading everywhere, and then things can get changed. That's my philosophy. Yeah. And that's how I've always tried to work. And I've never, ever, I'll watch it and, sit back with the popcorn and watch it all explode and all the rest of it. I'm definitely guilty of that. Pull up that deck chair and let's watch this shit go. Right. But I started with my kids.
Drama is entertaining. Commentary you don't agree with is entertaining. If you looked, I would not show y'all my homepage, because y'all would be like, you watch these horrible people. And I'm like, yes. Why? Because it's entertaining. It's like
you don't have to agree with it to watch it. Like
95% of the time, I do not agree with the people that I'm listening to on YouTube. Yeah. But it's different from the bubble that I am with the people that I'm subscribed to. So it makes it interesting to watch.
But and also, at the same time,
with my arguments too. It confirms what I think, and it
at the same time, to be a well-rounded person, you can't just watch one side of the story. You actually have to watch the other side of the story that makes you feel uncomfortable, that makes you question your structure, your belief structure. If you don't do that, you can't grow as a person.
The other side. They'll mention things you won't hear from the other side.
That's right. That's exactly right. Because everybody has an agenda. Every side has an agenda. Yeah. And I know a lot of people go, I don't have an agenda. Oh, yes, you do. Sorry, but everybody.
It might not be overt, but like you have a
Yeah.
reason why you do certain things, whether you know about them or not, like you do. Or if someone watches your channel, they'll pick up on stuff just because we're all individuals. And we tend to gravitate towards people that are the same or people that are very different. It just depends on what kind of person you are.
And it also I think with a lot of this stuff too, you have to have an open mind. Like you can't be closed-minded. You have in this day and age, you have to have an open mind. There are far too many things to learn and all the rest of it. And if you're closed-minded, well, you're always going to be stuck in that place, and you're never ever going to change your mind. And there are a lot of people that will not change their mind because they're stuck in that place.
Yeah. Nobody wants to compromise, but the sad thing is the only way to make progress is to make compromise first. Because you've got to find somewhere in the middle where both sides feel like they're losing, but it's better than not gaining any ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so weird because a lot of times it just feels like we're living in a dystopian novel. Because what do you do in a dystopian novel? You scream, you shout, you break laws to get your way, and it works. And so now it's like people do that in the real world.
You might get people saying that all the book readers of the world are causing the problem.
Marginalized groups, which seems to defeat the point. Yes, so like with the book things too. So a lot of the times it's like white authors writing outside of their own experience, they'll get canceled, but then they're still making book sales and like the publishers will change some things and they'll go ahead and publish them. Then you'll have a marginalized author and someone will say, oh, well, they represented this right, but they didn't represent this aspect correctly. So we're going to go down on them. And then that author like never gets another book published because they got one aspect of the book wrong. And it's like, what?
Yeah, it's like that. It's like they have to be they're like held to a higher standard in some way. Like,
well, I think too, it's easier for people to cancel someone that they haven't spent any time or money on than it is for someone to cancel someone they have. So if you take someone that's a new author and they make a mistake, and then you take someone like Colleen Hoover and they make the same exact mistake, Colleen Hoover is probably still going to come out on top.
Yeah.
Because people have already read her works and loved them. Whereas the new author, people don't have a personal attachment. So they're like, oh, this author did this. Okay, I'm never going to read from them again. So, I mean, I agree with Nell. It only works.
I like Amy's comment. I need to go and get some sleep. It's been a tough week. Thank you for the discussion sprint. No worries. Have a good sleep, hon. Hope you feel better.
There is no excuse for bullying.
I didn't see that you were popping off the bed.
Cancel culture isn't about bringing awareness. That's the problem. It's more about drama and trying to drag people and bring them down rather than educating or making a real change. Yes.
Yeah. And also,
like if you know the person personally who's done the thing, you are the one who can help change their opinion. But if you don't,
that's what I mean about,
have the power.
Yeah, start locally, like I'm sure there's plenty of people in your neighborhood that could do with a bit of a sitting down and talking to.
Yeah.
Not a dictation, not dictatorship, but sitting down and go, hey, have you thought of it this way? What's the saying? Playing devil's advocate.
Yes. And they might not agree with you at the time because people don't change in 30 seconds.
No.
But I will tell you from experience, they'll remember the conversation years later. And when they do finally make the change, they'll remember that you were the one that took the time to reach out to them.
Yeah.
Because that definitely had more of an effect with me. And I still remember the people, even if literally all they said was, I'm disappointed. I remember the people that commented that more so than the people like, oh, I always knew this person was like this. I'm like, no, you didn't. I was like, I had never done anything like that.
Yeah.
Or when you do one bad thing, then they want to lump you in with all this other series of things that they say that are bad. And it's like, no, people are not like a monolith or whatever you want. People are complex. I'm just like, my goodness. Anyway, agree now. Hola, y'all. How you doing, Alan? Hey. Alan gave me a big compliment on one of his latest videos. He said I was one of his newer favorite booktubers, and I'm like, he said I was funny, and I was like, I need to go watch some of my videos and see if I am. No. I was like, I know I am in real life, but am I funny when I'm like doing book reviews and stuff? I don't even know. I crack myself up half the time, but I don't even know if what I'm saying is actually funny. I find myself funny.
Hey, my theory is if you're giving yourself a chuckle, that's all that matters.
I'm like, I have fun. I just sometimes I'll make a video. Like I made one of my last videos I did, and it was 1 hour and 2 minutes long, and I was like, this is too long. But I was like, I'm not going to overthink it, so I just let it sit. And then like 2 days later, I was like, okay, now that I've let it sit for a while, I do think that there was a lot of needless chit chat, and so I'm just going to re-record it. So I did, and it was fine. But it's like, I'm trying to be better about just leaving stuff in, even if I think I'll get like someone to unsubscribe because they don't like something I said. I'm just like,
at the end of the day, Heather, you're not going to please everybody that's out on the internet. And I think if you go into it thinking that way, or even have that in the back of your mind, and I totally sympathize with wanting to fit with you, with wanting to be accepted, wanting to fit in, wanting to be liked, and all the rest of it, because I have almost zero self-esteem. You know, I have thoughts on a regular basis, on a daily basis, that I am not good enough. That comes from my childhood, because I was abused as a child, and told I was an idiot, I'd never amount to anything, I wouldn't make it to my 21st, all this sort of stuff. I was punched black and blue and all that sort of stuff from my father, and hence why I also left home at 15. And so, like, I have that's ingrained in my head from a very young age, and it's hard to get out of that. So I totally sympathize, but you have to be yourself. If you don't be yourself, that will shine through more. What was that? Sorry?
You cannot have close relationships when you're not yourself. I still guard certain things because I'm still learning the difference between like my own opinions and things that I've been told, but I've been open about that. So like people know, like it's a continuous growth thing.
Yeah,
like
you don't go from your parents moving out of home, get to your 30s, and that's it. Boom, you're done. You've grown as a person.
Yeah.
On that, like like as I said, we're 20 years apart. And I'm still learning and growing as a person. The day I stop growing, that's the day that I've died. Like, there's no reason to be here anymore if you stop learning. Life is all about, learning and making better choices, and through your mistakes, through your errors. That's the only way really to compound what you're learning, is through mistakes and errors and all that sort of stuff. And every day that I've been on the, because like a lot of you may not or may know that I have a craft channel that I have 28,000 subscribers on. When I started that, go and watch my first video. You can tell how self-aware I was in that, because I was putting myself out there, and I didn't think I was good enough to do it. My husband actually wanted me to do YouTube back. He thought that I had the talent and all the rest of it to do my craft channel back in 2012. The furthest I got was I actually bought Filmora and got a lifetime membership, so I don't have to pay it every month, back in 2012. And that's as far as I got. Like being accepted and all the rest of it. Sometimes you just got to stop and just be yourself and just be genuine, and that shines through more than anything else. And the people that love you or like you or want to be around you or enjoy watching you will gravitate to you. And that I've had to learn that the hard way. And it's I just stopped caring about what other people think. because actually it's none of my business of what other people think of me. That, you know, all I can worry about is how I feel about myself and what I like seeing on the camera or in the mirror at the end of the day. And that's it.
Yeah.
Heather, here is your reminder.
Start winding down. Me. I'm weird because I'm like, I don't know what the word for it is. Because, like, self-esteem, there's a word for that. That makes sense. But mine is like, so when it comes to how I feel about myself, I have high self-esteem. But when it comes to how I feel that other people view me, that's where the insecurity is. It's all about the perception of me. That is like the barrier that makes me put up walls. Because
that sort of falls into self-worth, I think. Like you've I mean,
it's weird because it's not about the self, it's about other people. It's, I don't know. They need language for that.
It's definitely like it's definitely, it still falls into that category, because I mean, when you think about self-esteem, it is about self-worth. It's about how other people perceive you. That fear that people aren't going to, like a rejection thing, as you said, a rejection thing.
Definitely have high rejection sensitivity.
Yeah, like it's that's probably more than anything. Like, and I'm the same, because as a child, essentially, when you're an abused child, it's a rejection.
Yeah. And see, I didn't have physical abuse, but I was definitely emotionally abused.
What I mean,
I was like, even with adulthood, we've had to set boundaries. And so that was one of my things too, is that on Christmas Eve, my sister and me, I called everyone like a group thing. I called them to, like, you know, say, you know, Merry Christmas, whatever. And it turned into this big fight because one person had mentioned another family member's weight. And they said, you already know that this has been an issue with me. Like, this person has had ED before and all that. And it's like, you know that this is where you should not be talking about this, especially with this person. And so they were like, I've already told you that this is not okay. I don't even want to talk to you if you're going to, I don't even want to have a relationship with you anymore because you don't respect my boundaries. And they were trying to justify what they said and saying it was just a joke, and, oh, it wouldn't hurt me if someone said this to me, so I don't see why you're being sensitive. And they basically called them an MFer, like, literally. And after that, and seeing the fallout of it, and also kind of being the in-between person, I was like, you know what? I've just kind of accepted that, you know, some people are going to be the way that they're going to be. You cannot change people. You can try. You might be able to change certain aspects about them, but you can't change everything you don't like about someone in one night.
Yeah, and you know, because that's their own personal journey. They have to want to change. You know, it's you can't change anybody unless they want to change. It doesn't matter who they are.
Yes.
They have to want to change.
But also I saw that even after they literally called them an MFer and said, like, they didn't believe in God anymore, like, the worst thing you could ever say to Christian parents is that you don't believe in God anymore.
Yeah.
But you know what? They still love that person. Not the perfect kind of love where it's like fully accepting of everything, but still like the general sense of like, I still want to have a relationship to you, all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? They did the worst that they could do. So I'm like, everything's still okay. Everything's kind of back to normal now. So I'm like, I'm not really scared about the fallout from me doing anything because I've already seen it happen. So I'm like, I'm okay. I'm okay. So now it's like, do I share certain aspects of my life with the people that I know would be disappointed in those things? No, because that's my own barrier that I want to put up. But I was like, I would much rather have a barrier with like 2 people in my life than the entire world. I'm just like, the entire world's
a bit much.
It's so much harder for the whole world. And I was like, so I've gotten to be braver about certain things. Like I talk about books that like parents would not approve of. Like even me reading an erotica book would be like, like then make it
Bring
gay.
it on.
Like, what? What? You're reading gay erotica? Wait, you're writing it too? You're promoting it? I'm like, yes. Yes, I am. Uh, and so it's like, you know what? It's like I've got my open pen name now. People know it's me. I'm like, I don't care about getting the judgment because I know what I'm standing for now. And I'm
and
like,
that's it. That also comes, like, it doesn't come with everybody with age, but I think if you're a person that is open to growth, personal growth and personal learning and understanding, and you're a non-blinkered person, I think at the older you get, that's a comfortable thing within yourself. You're okay with the choices that you're making and your belief structure and all that stuff, and you're okay with the fact that, you know what, I don't necessarily believe everything that you believe, but I'm open to listening to it. And I
yeah.
think, and that's again, that's just my personal opinion, and I think that comes with age. And there's a lot of, like, as women, because we're also people pleasers as well, we suffer a lot with rejection and whatnot, but it does get easier as you get older.
I think a lot of
That,
times it's like when people get in their 60s when their parents are dying, and then they're like,
Mhm.
oh, now I no longer have like this authority figure that I have to meet the standard for so I can do what I want. And so I kind of said that to some coworkers that I had at one time. They had both previously been in marriages with men and like had children and stuff, but they're lesbians. And so then they were in a couple, and she's like, yeah, when she's like, I did it when I really wanted a tattoo, and then I just told my mother, I was like, I promised you I wasn't gonna get one until you died, but I'm breaking that promise. And she's like, oh, now I'm gay. And now she's like, yeah, mine kind of came when I was like 45, and she was like, I'm just done. So she kind of did it in phases. She got the tattoo and then she came out, and now she's happy. And so it's
Yeah.
like everyone gets to that point in their life where they're just like, I'm not waiting for people to literally die for me to do what I want to do.
The best thing that I ever did, like, as I said before, I was abused as a child, and then I went from my father's home to my first partner's home, and he was abusive as well. And so I was 25 before I got out of physical abuse. And basically, it only took me 6 years to realize that those people were toxic people and that I couldn't have them in my life anymore. And the catalyst came for me when I told my mum that I was engaged to my now husband, and the look on her face was of disgust because I was happy.
Oh my God.
And that we were in a public place, and I looked at her, and it was like an epiphany for me. The look on her face was like she was actually angry that I was going to be happy and that my partner and I were equals. And I think it was probably about 6 months after that, I cut all ties with my family. So, and I come from quite a big family, not immediate, but like extended family and all the rest of it. And I completely cut them all out, and I haven't spoken to them for 22 years. And I can honestly say that was the best thing that I ever done. And that was a hard thing to do, not a very easy thing to do, but it also taught me from that experience that if I can cut my parents out of my life, then I can cut other toxic people out of my life. And I tell you, there was carnage everywhere. I did it nicely, but there was carnage everywhere because
Yes.
I realized that because I was living in that environment for so long, that other people that had come into my life were toxic people too. And so, as I said, it was carnage. It was a clean sweep. And it was the best thing that I ever did. It was a good thing for my children. It was a good thing for my mental well-being. It was a good thing for my partner, because I don't know whether I would have been the same person had I not done that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I totally get the whole thing of wanting people to like you, because I've cut everybody out. and I wasn't sure whether I was a good person, because after being told that I was not a good person. Do you know what I mean? Like, for so long. So totally relate to that sort of stuff.
Yeah. A lot of the emotional abuse that I had was because, and I came to this realization on my own, because I like all kinds of brain science, so I watch a lot of videos, and it's like, I am not a psychologist or psychiatrist, so can I technically make this diagnosis? No, but am I like 99.9% sure? Yes. The one of my parents is clinical narcissist. And so once I realized that, it was like, okay, then I know not to take anything that this person says personally, because it's not about me, it's about them and their own insecurities. But at the same time, not accepting it either. So when there was the big blowout, I called the next day, because I was like, this person, I'll just say it, I don't care, we're 3 hours into this, and I've already said it in the I was a dick video anyway on accident. So, so I was like, I'll just say it anyway here.
I remember that you went, oh, Dan.
I was like, oh, I gave the gender. It's like, they don't know about this channel anyway, for reasons, so that I can be more authentic, and safe, safely authentic. But and that's why I don't let people I know on this channel, so I can say what I want, and it doesn't interfere with my like person life, where I just have to listen to things. But anyway, because narcissists don't, you can tell them all day, they don't care. They'll keep bringing stuff up. It's annoying. But anyway, I called and I was trying to like mend fences, because I was like, you need to understand that if you don't respect my sister's boundaries, you are not going to have a relationship with her at all. And so, parents aren't supposed to have favorites, but they always kind of identify more with one child. And he identifies more with her, because she's always kind of been the black sheep of the family. And he was like that when he was a teenager. And so he feels like it's his duty to make things fit into his box. So like, he's overweight, so he doesn't want us to be overweight. But it's, again, like an insecurity of his own part. It's not just I want this because it's better for you. It's like, I can't do this for myself, so I'm going to try to make you do it for you, type thing. But
and that's a control thing too. Like, that's trying to control.
It was very, very, very controlling. My mom admitted to me one time that he grounded me for 2 weeks. She said, you didn't actually do anything. He just wanted you to stay home. I was like, so I'm grounded from everything because he wants me to stay home. I think I got grounded at one point because I said I thought it was smart for people to move in with each other like 3 months before they got married. And I was even talking about like in separate rooms, because premarital is a big no-no with like fundamentalist stuff. And I was like, they can have separate rooms and they can live with each other for 3 months like roommates, and then they'll know if they should actually get married. And like, I got grounded for that opinion. So
that's
but wild. It was all things like, you were not allowed to walk in front of the TV. You had to crawl under it, because you were not going to be interrupting the viewing. Or like talking when the TV was on, anything like that. Any
Oh yeah, we weren't allowed to do that. I wasn't even allowed to watch TV as a kid. Like, my dad controlled the TV.
Oh, it was always what he wanted to watch. It was never what we wanted to watch.
Yeah, and we weren't allowed to watch, like during the school week and stuff, we weren't allowed to watch it. And the only movies that I ever seen were Golden Years of Hollywood and World Around Us, which was every, like, David Attenborough and stuff like that. It was a show called World Around Us. Yeah, so basically that's pretty much it. That, like, we weren't allowed to watch any comedies or anything like that. As that, I like, after I left home and as my brother and sister came up through the ranks, and that they were watching a lot of different TV then, because there was more shows and stuff like that. But yeah, it was quite a different experience. My raising to, because I'm 7 years older than my brother and 5 years older than my sister, and when I actually confronted my mum about the abuse and all the rest of it one day, and she said something, and I said, do you know how I felt as a kid? And she goes, no, I don't. And I said, well, it was Michael was mummy's little boy and Donna was daddy's little girl and Nicole was the piece of shit that you kicked in the corner. And she just looked at me and I went, that's exactly how I felt. And she didn't say anything. She didn't apologize. Nothing. Didn't even really acknowledge it. Just sort of looked at me as if she was looking through me. And it's just like, and that's sort of when I went, yeah, these people aren't great. This is not how people are. And, you know, like as I left home and stuff like that, I got to see a lot of different sorts of people and stuff like that, and started to make up my own mind of what was deemed okay and what wasn't and all that sort of stuff. It was just
I'm probably extra hard on my husband because I'll tell him, I'm like, I don't like this angry outburst you just had. I was like, I know that you don't intend to ever inflict harm, but the anger that you reflect is the same as someone who would inflict harm. Therefore, it's abuse. And I'm like, you cannot do that. And I remind him sometimes, I was like, I was emotionally abused as a child, so you cannot phrase things in a certain way because I will be sensitive to it. So like, it's taken time, but he's adapted. So he knows he can't nag. If he wants to nag me, he has to phrase it a certain way. Otherwise, I take it as, you're not a good wife. I don't hear it as, can you please go do the dishes because I want to cook us dinner tonight. I hear it as like, you're a failure of a wife. Like that. And I tell him, I was like, I know it's not true.
But it's your perception. And you can't sometimes, you can't sometimes, you know, and like, I can't speak for you, but I know for myself, when I hear that in my head, like I'm feeling that, I know it's wrong.
Yes.
But you can't stop it. It just keeps coming at you. And it's like, stop. Like, and no matter, and sometimes I find the more I try to stop something,
the worse it is.
The worse it is. Yeah.
That's when I cry because I have OCD, I have ADD, and it comes with like the intrusive thoughts, but also the emotional, you have problems with the emotional, what do you call it? Oh my gosh. There's like an actual name for it. It's like where you can be feeling something and your body is doing something else. So I can be like, I am fine right now because I understand that I'm having this thought, but it's not real. But my body is like needing to release the pressure of the thought spiral. So I'll cry. Other people with OCD, with the recurring thoughts and all that stuff, they will self-harm because that's their way to break the cycle of thoughts. But mine has always been crying. So I will just cry. But I'll also cry if I feel frustrated or out of control. And sometimes it can be like a song or something. Like I'll be like, I am happy right now. I don't know what's happening. I'm just crying, but I am like, I'm literally okay.
I'm good. I'm really good. I may not look good, but I'm good.
Yes. And it's like I've had to tell people sometimes, like I'll be writing a book and I'll be expressing the character's emotions, but I am completely fine. And I'll be like, hey guys, if y'all look over here and I'm just like sobbing, I promise you I am okay. You do not need to worry. I was like,
I'm just channeling the character.
Yes. I'm like, I was like, the crying, it helps. And I tried to put in self-esteem because I wanted to see the actual definition, because I am a very literal person. So like semantics, I get really stuck on that sometimes. But it's like, if I can look it up and then I'll be like, oh, I get it now. Like I was told too that the ADD thing was not real for me. A lot of time, it wasn't until I got into college where I was like, oh, it was not a misdiagnosis. Like it is real, because I was taught that it was like where you couldn't focus on anything. And I was like, no, I can focus on things that I like. So it didn't make sense.
It's hyperfixation.
It is. So like if I am in a classroom and I'm trying to take a test, I'm trying to focus on the test, but if someone's a heavy breather and they're beside me, or if someone has body odor, or I'm hearing the clock ticking because it's quiet in the room, or someone's tapping their foot, I'm focused on all 6 things at the same time. which makes it take me longer to like read the question of the test, even though I'm trying to make. And so I was like, once I understood what the actual like definition of it was, I was like, oh, now it makes sense to me. So I was curious, so I was trying to put it in here. Apparently, there are 3 types of self-esteem. Overly high self-esteem, I've definitely seen that. Feeling superior to others, people with overly high self-esteem are often arrogant, self-indulgent, and express feelings of entitlement. But I've also, like with the narcissistic parent, their outward expression is that they are superior. The things that they say is that they are superior, but the internal is low self-esteem. It's extreme low self-esteem. So it's like they are overcompensating by trying to pump themselves up, but I don't buy it. Like I see through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Low self-esteem says feeling inferior to others, and then healthy self-esteem is having an accurate and balanced self-view. None of that. I need it to like include what you were saying, because I feel like you're right. I feel like it is all, it's in the same area. I think it's just self word is what bothers me, because I'm like, this doesn't fully encompass.
No, it doesn't. But like, it's still an esteem thing. Like it's basically it's about yourself being rejected. So
Yes. So I just clicked on another part and it said 10 core components of self-esteem. And one of it says feeling of personal and interpersonal security, sense of social belonging. So I definitely do not have that. So I always think of self-esteem as thoughts on yourself, and then another part on here, feeling of being capable. And I tend to be very self-assured in my capability of doing things, but I just do not feel that other people can do that. And then here's the other part, feeling of having trust and being trusted. So yeah, apparently, according to these definitions, I definitely have low self-esteem.
because it all falls under the same. It all comes down to self-worth, rejection, like your fear of rejection and all that sort of stuff. That all comes down to that.
Yeah. So this makes a lot more sense when it breaks it down into specifics. And doesn't have.
You had me thinking there, going, I'm sure that falls.
Yes. It says, okay, so here's the 10 core components. If any of y'all are watching and you're curious, I promise I'll get to all the comments. A feeling of personal and interpersonal security, a sense of social belonging, a sense of purpose, a feeling of being capable, a feeling of having trust and being trusted, a sense of contribution, a feeling of influence. I don't feel like I'm very influential. I think I can be in certain situations, but most of the time, no. I'm like, I'm the last person who's going to be listened to. So I have to be very loud, sound very educated to feel like someone's going to listen to me. I'll have to enunciate my words and have research and
feeling weaponized with your research.
Oh my goodness. Sense of reward, sense of family pride. Yeah. I'm definitely falling short in several of those areas. Oh, I learned something new, Nicole. Something new. All right, let's see here. Alan's 400 pages into War and Peace. How many pages are in it is what I'm curious about.
I think there's around 1,000 in that one.
Oh my. A good thing that I'm humorous. Just be genuine. It's why I sub to you. I see, that's the thing too. I'm like, I'm definitely genuine. Look at me in my moo-moo, no bra. I'm just like, I don't care. I'm just like, I care enough to where if I stand up, I'll shield the tatas. But other than that, and that's only a societal thing because women are told like you can't show any like curves or anything, or you're trying to be sexual. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I do not want anyone looking at me like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, you too, Nicole. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Certainly enough, and I told everyone that in my last video.
Oh, thank you.
Your last video, I saw you have
A
your
quarter year crisis
quarterly.
tag.
Yeah, I haven't watched it yet.
I watched it this morning. I commented too.
Night. I try and wind down at night with candles and meditation. Then I go to sleep and I'm up again in 2 to 3 hours. Oh my goodness. I know some people do sleep like that, but do you do it several times a day where you go to sleep for 2 to 3 hours? Or do you only sleep once 2 to 3 hours? And if you do, is there some way you tap into like getting your REM sleep right away? I need to know how you function. Night, Amy. I mean, Amy's still in the comments lower down. She's like, it's too entertaining. I can't go to sleep. Oh my goodness. I do that sometimes too. Oh my goodness. Oh, did Nell say she was going to sleep too?
No, I think she said night to Amy, and Amy was responding.
Some people can't handle the word no. Oh, yes. So I got off topic because again, ADD. I have to circle back like 30 minutes later.
Lucky for you, my partner's ADD, so this is just a normal conversation for me. Like, yeah, I can keep track. The only time I can't keep track is when my best friend, who is ADD, and my husband, and they're both in, and I'm like, okay, one of yous have to stop because this little chickababe here, she can only concentrate on one of yous at a time. and keep track of all the conversations that are going on. Because you probably noticed, like, you'll be talking and then I can come straight back to that conversation where we left off and keep going with you.
Yes. So
years of training.
The conversation afterward, when I was like trying to mend everybody back together, and I was having a conversation with my mom and my dad, and I was like, my mom had been slightly dismissive with my sister because she feels like she does stand up for us. But my sister was telling her, like, you don't do it enough. You only do it when it's like really bad, you know, like that sort of thing. And she's like, it's because of the religious thing telling you that like he's the authority. So you have to kind of like bow down a little and just let him do his thing, like a respect thing. And it's like, no, we should be the priority. And
that's very much a submissive thing. Like growing up in a Catholic household, that was very much how it was.
Yes,
the woman was always had to be submissive, and you had to support your partner or your husband, and
you had a disagreement, had to go in another room.
Yeah, and basically, my grandfather on my dad's side, and they were the Catholic side. My mum's side were Church of England. So it didn't matter whether my mum or my nonna had a different opinion to my dad and my grandfather. What they said was law.
Yeah,
that was it. There was no rebuttals. Nothing.
It was like you can go hours later when they've calmed down and you can try to have a conversation with them in a private space where they don't feel like they're being openly disrespected, and then they might listen. So like I called the next day and we did get to a compromise, but it took a while because again, when you're dealing with someone that's like a clinical narcissist, they don't think they're wrong.
No.
You might be able to get them to make a concession, but they still don't think they're wrong. You cannot convince them. So I was having to like really lay it out for him and be like, I was having to lay it out for him and be like, if you do not do this, if you do not learn how to respect boundaries, you are not going to have a relationship. And
that's like my parents. They essentially they didn't even know Neroli was born.
Oh my God.
They knew about Savannah because my son had told them about Savannah, but they didn't know about. And see, I had to cut my son out as well because he is quite violent, and he took after his dad. And so I've cut him out of my life because I couldn't have that violence around my girls. And, you know, like that was a sacrifice I had to make. He didn't, and he had a whole truckload of mental issues that I, as a human being, was not capable of dealing with at that particular time in my life. So I took steps to get him the help and everything that he needed, and took it out of my hands. But he actually has really violent tendencies and stuff like that. And I had to give my girls a chance of not having that in their life. And so, yeah, they haven't had a relationship. My eldest daughter has a relationship with her brother, but that was her choice. And even she said, she goes, I understand, like she's just recently said to me, she goes, I understand why you made the choices you made, because he is very, very violent and very volatile. So he doesn't have, like, he's on medication and stuff like that, but he's still not in check.
Oh, man.
You know, like he's still very volatile. And like even the way he speaks to me, like when he's spoken to me in text and stuff in the past, I just went, I can't have this person in my life. So when I said it was brutal, it was brutal. Like when I cut everybody out, and like my sister, she sent me a message about 5 years ago. No, it wasn't even 5 years ago. It was 2020 when she sent it to me in the height of COVID. She's in England. Like she moved out of the country to get away from my father. Like, and he didn't even abuse her. But he was so narcissistic, she had to get away. And basically, she sent me a message saying, you know, wanting to get in touch and all that sort of stuff. And I'm just like, no, I'm sorry, but no. That you stood there, you were just as bad as him, because you stood there and told me that I was the monster.
Oh my gosh.
You know, because I was making these decisions, I was the monster. No, I wasn't the monster. It was your parents that were the monster, and I had to get away from it for self-preservation. And
I have a better relationship with my sister after the fallout because I took up for her during the moment.
Yeah.
So like I was silent so that she could speak, but I was like visible, shaking my head, crying while she was crying, all this other kind of stuff. And my mom had said, like, Heather, don't think I don't see you over there shaking your head. Da, 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 da. And so when I called back, I told her, I was like, Mama, I know that you think this way, da 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 da. I said, but Kimmy was right. Like she was right about what she was telling you. And then I was telling my dad, I was like, you are not allowed to mention weight with her at all. I was like, don't bring it up. I don't care if it's a joke, not even a compliment. I was like, don't do it. Like that is a boundary for her. And I said, don't do it with me either, because he's always said stuff like that. And he still trying to defend himself. And then, so I cut him off at one point. I was like, no, you don't get to dismiss what I'm saying. You don't get to defend. I said, you're trying to make it seem that you're not the bad guy right now. And I get that. I said, but that's not the point. And then my mom had interjected at one point, and she had said, what she's telling you is that they are grown adults and like they get to have these boundaries. And when you are constantly bringing up these things that you see as flaws, what you're saying is like, I don't love you unless you meet my standard. And I was like, that's exactly what we're trying to tell him. And that's why he's got to stop, because why would you want to have a conversation with someone when it seems like, oh, I'm only going to love you if you lose weight? Like, you know what I'm saying? And so then he was like, well, okay, I won't mention anything about weight ever again. Like just saying it like that with that tone. But like he came to a compromise. He wasn't happy about it. And then he goes like, but don't think I won't say something about like her living with her boyfriend out of wedlock. Don't think I won't say nothing about you voting Democrat, all that kind of. And I was like, Daddy, you can't say things about that either. And he's like, well, da 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 da, and wants to bring up Bible stuff. And I stopped him and I was like, here's the thing. I said, you had us for 18 years. Every single thing that you could say to back up whatever stance you want to tell us, every verse that you could pop out, every possible argument. I said, we already know. You had us for 18 years. We know all of them. All of them. your job is done. I was like, your job is
You need to
done.
get some new material, Dad.
I was like, we know all of those things and we make our own decisions on what we want to do with the information. So I was like,
Yeah.
repeating it is not going to change things. I was like, I know it sucks to not have control, but you do not have control anymore and you got to let it go. Like we're on the same level now. You're still the parent, but we're on the same level. There's not this dominance thing that you're trying to hold on to. It's over. You get it
It's
when we're
done.
under 18 because you got to raise us to be able to live out on our own. I was like, but we're
Yeah.
there now.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm married. I'm like, we're off on our. I was like, I've been out of the house for almost as long as I was in it. Like, I'm good. I'm good. And so I've been more open with my mom now. So like I literally told her, like, I don't think it's a sin to be gay anymore. I don't believe this stuff. She saw my business card that literally says like LGBT romance author, and it didn't have my name on it. It had my pen name, but she knows now.
Yeah.
And she said, I saw this and I was looking for your name on it. So then I brought her the other one that has my name. I was like, this one's mine. I didn't tell her that the other one was too, but like she knows. But she didn't
Yeah, she
question.
knows. Yeah.
She knows. She didn't question.
She was fishing then.
She was fishing. I didn't give her the bait. She's been snoopy. She was at my house one time and I was smart. I was so smart because I had the feeling if I let her use my laptop, she's going to get on YouTube and then she's going to be nosy. And I was like, I don't want her on my YouTube. So I put her on my author one. I'm only subscribed to authors. I was like, she's not going to care anything about these videos. And I hadn't been watching it for months. So there was nothing for like the algorithm to have for me.
Yeah.
So I had it on that. Here I come a while later. She's in the living room. She's on YouTube, and I hear Kate Kavanaugh, which is an author tuber. I'm like in here and stuff, and I hear Kate Kavanaugh's voice, and I come in there, and sure enough, she is watching Kate Kavanaugh, an author tuber. Like, Mama, what are you doing? I was like, why are you watching my video? She's like, I wanted to know what you watch. And then I found out that they still had my Hulu. I watch all kinds of documentaries. I watch shows that have the word sex in the title. And I'm just like, I don't want to know what's on there. I had logged out of all devices so that it would go off of their computer, and somehow it came back and they still had my Hulu. So what did I do? I made her a profile and I named it Mama. And I said, Mama, I added you a profile on Hulu so you can watch your shows. And I've got it to where they'll recommend you shows that you like based off your stuff. So now she uses her profile, Mama. So I was like, if I log out of all the devices again, she's going to know that I still have Hulu and she's going to be wondering why. But I was like, I don't want her to see my continue watching reel.
Yeah.
Or to get the suggestions that I get.
See, with my grandparents were really like, they were devout Catholics and whatnot. My dad and my mum were free loving. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. And so yeah, there was, keys in the basket parties and all that sort of stuff. So I grew up with a very liberal take on sexual attraction and all that sort of stuff. So like, yeah, so like he had one extreme in his household where it was like yours, you didn't have all that sort of stuff.
I called a guy mouth-watering one time, and I got in so much trouble from my grandmother. And it's like, did I actually mean that the guy was mouth-watering? No. I was just like, I'm asexual. But
I grew up in a very liberal house. Like my immediate family was very liberal, but my grandparents' house was not. So yeah, so like it was so contrasting. I've had like, when I think about my childhood, it was very interesting. I've seen way too much, way more than I should have seen as a child.
I did not have any contrast until I got married with my parents' in-laws, and they love all of us. And yeah, they do it the way that they should. My husband was not abused as a child in any way, as far as I know. But yeah, they're very accepting of all things. I can tell her I'm writing gay porn, and she's just like, okay, when can I read it? Like that would be her mentality. Like she don't.
Yeah.
So me and his mama are good. Like we talk on the phone sometimes. Like we're good. We have good relationship. I'm like, most in-laws, you don't get that. But she's very proud of me, and she loves the direction I'm going as far as like growth. The last argument we had was family members were over. I think it was like Thanksgiving or something, and it had to do with abortion stuff. And it was again, terminology. I'm big on terminology. All right. And it was phrase, my body, my choice. And I'm like, but it's not your body. There's another body in there too. And I was like, you can debate, but use facts. Call it a baby, but you know, call it a baby. You can still be pro-abortion and call it a baby. And because again, I'm all about semantics. And so they were like, no, it's not. It's a fetus, it's tissue. But even that, like a 2-second little, again, I'm all about the terminology. I'm just like, I am so big on word choice. It's ridiculous. But I had told her a couple weeks ago.
You know, like that, it just comes down to terminology, and that works better in your brain, obviously, to have the correct terminology.
Yes. It's like, okay, so like nowhere near the same concept, but it is, I use extreme comparisons, if that makes sense. So they're not accurate. It's apples to oranges. But for me, as someone who likes, I don't know what I'm saying, but you know what I mean. I like extreme comparisons because they make sense to me. It puts things into perspective. So it's like a vegan saying, so if you take veganism and you use that as an allegory for pro-choice versus pro-life, I can see that with the veganism debate. So the vegans would be your pro-lifers. They're like, I recognize this as an animal's life and I don't want to take it away. Whereas the pro-choice would be the meat eater that's saying, yes, well, I can understand that this is an animal. However, I need this animal to sustain my nutrition and do all, like this animal is going to provide me with more benefits not being alive than it is for it to be alive. Therefore, I'm going to make the choice to consume this animal. And so it's like, okay, so if you take it with the abortion thing, it's like, okay, so with that, the person that wants to eat meat, I don't think that they should criticize the vegan for recognizing the animal as a living being and not wanting to eat it. And I could see why a vegan would be against people meeting eat because of the way that they view the animal. So I don't think that they're wrong in their view, and I think that it can be villainized, but I also think the meat eaters can be over villainized by
by the vegans. Like it's basically, it's a whole thing. Like they're both being as bad as, if you're a vegan and you just cruise along and you're a vegan and you don't judge anybody else for their choices, that's fine. But when you've got the people that are vegan and then attacking another group of people because they don't see your views, when in actual fact they probably do, you're not giving them a chance because you're victimizing them for making a choice that suits them, and then you get upset because they do the same back to you. It just makes you both as bad as one another. You know, it's balanced because they're both as bad as one another, but it's not right. Just everybody mind their own business.
With me, with the whole semantics thing, is like, I feel like you can't like when it comes to that with the pro-choice versus pro-life, you can't have a discussion unless you can agree on what's considered meat. Until you can agree on that, you can't have the discussion, because it's like, again, okay, so like vegetarians, they don't see fish as meat, so it's okay. I know these are like,
if you want to be, if you want to actually be correct in your terminology, a vegetarian is someone that will still eat animal products such as eggs, honey, butter, and products derived from animal products. Okay, but they don't eat meat, so they don't eat the flesh of an animal. Okay, a vegetarian that eats fish, okay, is actually a pescatarian.
See, I thought that it was still this. I thought that just was like a different type of diet.
No, so you've got vegetarian, pescatarians, vegan.
Oh.
Okay, so pescatarians eat fish; they eat seafood, so fish. Vegetarians will eat vegetables, but they will eat products that are derived from animal products, so cheese, eggs, honey,
Even
anything that comes
chocolate,
from an animal.
because it has
Chocolate,
milk.
yep. So they'll eat stuff that is made from animal products, but they won't eat the flesh of an animal. And then you've got vegans that do not eat anything that is derived, wear anything that's derived from any animal, from anything. So they don't eat honey, they don't wear leather, they don't anything that comes from any byproduct from an animal. So any soap that's made with lard or anything like that, they will not touch it. And that is what a vegan. That's the distinguishing. So yeah, if that makes any sense at all.
It made a lot of sense. Gotta go to the bodega, then back to War and Peace. Nice chatting with you too and everyone. Purple blue peace. Hand purple blue.
Oh, that's an emoji, a YouTube an emoji that probably didn't work. So it's a hand that's purple. Yeah.
But I'm getting ready for bed.
And Nell's gone to bed.
We should just like rename this stream "Controversial Topics at Random." Using vegetarianism to describe the pro-life movement.
It's different. Can't say it isn't different.
Oh my gosh. I mean, this is any topic that you can come up with. I'm like, if you use, I am I'm a literal thinker. So I'm like, you can have the discussions, but I like it when the terminology is the same for everyone, because then it makes more sense to me. I get confused when it's a whole bunch of different stuff. Like there was like, huh?
I get that when I'm teaching, like when I'm teaching my sewing in a sewing environment. I often explain the same thing several different ways to cater for the people that think differently.
Yeah.
Not everybody thinks the same, and not every person has the vocabulary or the skill set and stuff like that. So you've got to. It's not even dumbing it down. It's just explaining it in a different way so it connects the dots in someone's head.
Yeah. It just makes more sense to them to be able to figure it out. I don't like
and having my partner who is ADHD, and then I would even say that she's undiagnosed, but I would say that Savannah is autistic.
Well, I think I am too, which is probably where all the level stuff comes from.
And having to deal with them and having to explain things in different ways and all the rest of it, and then you've got Nera Lee, who you can say things and just blurt it out and she'll connect the dots herself, and I'm the same. I can connect the dots myself, but sometimes you've got to explain things a different way. And I find that I play that role quite a bit in my personal life, and then I've moved that over into my like I'm working through a bag or whatever, and I'm constructing it, and I'll say something about the handles, but then I'll be back to the handles again, and then I'll say it a different way. And I often get comments from people going, the way you explain things is really good. you know, like I'm getting it, and when they've with other people they've struggled. Because I when I go into anything, I never go into a situation where I think everybody already has the knowledge. I assume that you don't know.
But
And
also terminology can be very isolating depending on word choices. So like, okay, so back to the abortion thing. If someone is describing a fetus as the same as removing a tapeworm, I cannot have a discussion with you because those are not equally equated to me because I view it as a life. But you can still have
a fetus is not a parasite.
Yes, yes. But you can still have a conversation and talk about systems that are in place or like the pros or cons of it while still discussing it as a life. I think you can still have that discussion. It's just like when people use IVF and they're like, there's selective termination because it's like, okay, we're having this discussion. This is a living being, but you're making this decision because it's going to be harder for like all 6 of these that wound up being fertilized are going to be able to grow to the right amount and that you and all the children are going to be safe. I feel like you can have those discussions still using the terminology of it being a life and not a tapeworm.
Tapeworm.
I think a lot of bad is because there are the extreme mental gymnastics that people do. They feel like they have to go way over here to be able to make the point. And I'm like, no, you can make your point and use the terminology of the side that you don't agree with. Because when you use the same terminology, then you can have a discussion. But when you don't, it's like creates a barrier there.
Yeah, it creates a divide. It automatically creates that divide.
Same thing with transgender issues. If you're going to be calling a transgender man a woman, you are not going to be able to have any productive conversation because you're disrespecting that individual. No, you don't have to call them a man if that makes you uncomfortable because you're like, well, technically you're not. You're a biological female.
Regardless of what your biology is, it's how you identify.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, if you're not uncomfortable with that, then say trans man because that's an accurate term that takes into account biology and everything because it's accurate. It's a trans man. You've got the identifier of what kind of man, trans man. So it's like language is interesting.
Language is interesting. And language can get you in a lot of trouble if you don't know how to use it effectively.
That's the thing that made me angry too when it came to switching over from Republican to Democrat was they were trying to get the bathroom bill and people were taking images of people who present as men calling them trans women going into the bathrooms. And I was like, your argument is inaccurate because you're not representing what a trans woman is or looks like. They are not a grown, hairy looking, bearded man coming into the bathroom. That's not what it is. I'm like, your argument is like completely no. Like it doesn't make any sense. I'm just like, oh my God. I was like, I've lost respect for you. Bye-bye. I was like, you can say what you want to say, but make it accurate. Make it accurate. And you can still have that opinion, but make it accurate.
That's it. Like, and
oh my goodness.
Like it's such a hard one because like there people, as you said, they're not accurate in their descriptions or what they're saying. They're going off half cocked and they're not, and they just end up making an ass of themselves at the end of the day. Like language is a very tricky thing.
Well, you saw
a car door slam, but I can't see a car. I keep hearing because I'm at the front of my house and the road's just there, and I keep hearing a car door slam, and I can't see a car.
Oh.
So
we've been on here for 3 hours and 20 minutes. My husband peeked in here and he looked at me because he was like, it's almost 10 o'clock. Like, I know that's why he like stood in the doorway.
Yeah.
I haven't ate. I haven't done nothing. And I'm just like,
I'm actually going to have to go because I just looked at the time and I've got to take my daughter to work anyway. So, yeah, I'll take her to work.
I will rename this video.
Discussion sprints.
I will rename.
I've been on sprints before where they've had all intentions of sprinting and then no sprinting happens on that. It happens.
I'm gonna be like, no sprinting, just all of the topics you're supposed to not talk about. All the things you're not supposed to say in one video. Bye, everybody.